We're going to talk about the assassination attempt on former President Donald J. Trump. I took some time, I collected my thoughts, and I put an article up about it. If you want to read my broader thoughts that we might not have a lot of time to get into, you can go and read this article. It's I thought I did pretty well in kind of expressing what I wanted to say, which was basically that for me, a lot of the issues around the coverage of Trump have been that ever since he entered into the realm of politics, he has been presented as this unique danger to the fabric of American society. And so it's the media's radicalization machine and the bullet meant for Trump. And basically, this is like my initial thoughts. I wrote this like within a few hours of it happening, and then I took a day and waited to see if anything was contradicted and then published it. You can go here and you can start by reading that over at the Substack. Next, I'll start the stream by saying what I shouldn't realistically have to say. But okay, I'm going to put out my beliefs. So first of all, I don't support political violence at all. I think if you want to have a functioning political system, then you must abhor violence. I understand historically revolutions, blah, blah, but generally that is when you are at an impasse. American society does not meet that, and yet America's history of political change is kind of like almost uniquely steeped in violence. You know, they shoot at politicians frighteningly often compared to other nations. So, no, I don't support political violence. I also am unique, I guess, in the sense that I have never believed Donald Trump is this unique danger to American society. I've never believed it from day one. I see him very much as a symptom of a disease, which is American politics has been getting progressively dirtier for decades. And that means that you now have two parties that I view broadly as criminal fraternities. I mean, you know, Republicans, Democrats, Bloods, Crips, right? And what they do is they push the envelope time and time again about how to retain power. And so, you know, I watched it in 2000, very dubious election. I watched it in 2004, very dubious election. You know, you fast forward through the Obama years. I've seen so much because I've covered this so extensively, and maybe this is why Trump doesn't feel like an existential evil, you know, this like thing. Because while I believe, and I say in the article, that the fake elector scheme should be absolutely disqualifying. You should be disqualified from politics. Equally, you should be disqualified for working with a foreign agent to compile a dossier of fake intelligence for the purposes of subverting an election. But you only pay a fine for that. You should, you know, that we can keep going through all of it. Ultimately, both parties, whether it's through gerrymandering, whether it's Republicans putting in fewer voting machines, this is a matter of record, fewer voting machines in predominantly black neighborhoods to try and disincentivize them from voting. It's just fucking crazy, like, what American politics is. And I've said this for probably about 30 years, right? America is the world's largest banana republic. It has been ever thus. It has never been different. And so you get a candidate like Donald Trump when your politics only rewards winning, and winning at all costs. Trump is what comes out of that. And I don't think Trump is going to turn America into a theocracy. I don't think Trump is going to turn America into a monarchy. I don't think Trump is going to somehow install himself as a god emperor for life and eventually will pass the fucking crown, which it will be at that point, to Baron Trump. I don't believe any of these things. And I don't believe any of these things because I have watched president after president after president do and say crazy shit, erode civil liberties, And yet America is always, the coalition is sort of loosely held. And it won't be any different for Donald Trump. And a lot of people are going to look stupid at the end of his tenure. Now, what Trump is going to do, he will say this at some point when he gets reelected. He'll say, you know, cheated me all that cheating and Russia in my first term. Maybe I should get a third term. Wouldn't we all like a third term? Do you want to make America great again for a third? He'll say that. 100% he'll say that. And everyone will lose their mind like they did over the dictator on day one joke. But it won't happen. And he's not serious. And I don't think... I think people are really out of whack when, you know, look, the fake elector scheme is disgraceful. Trying to subvert the outcome of an election is an attack on the people. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, it should be disqualifying. But when you sort of know Bush rigged an election in 2000 and leveraged the Supreme Court, who voted along partisan lines to deny his opponent a recount, not because there was anything constitutionally unsound about him asking for a recount, but what was supposedly constitutionally unsound was they might not be able to complete the recount in time. So that was the basis for that Supreme Court decision. And we got Bush, and Bush was infinitely more authoritarian than Trump. He eroded more American civil liberties than any other president in my lifetime. He turned a national tragedy into an opportunity not just to spy on you, which he did by taking the NSA and making them, in an unprecedented way, spy on American citizens, but he also used it for self-enrichment, which he did via Dick Cheney and Halliburton and all that other stuff. One of the dirtiest cabinets for that, he took in, he put former oil buddies from oil companies in positions in the Environmental Protection Agency. Oh, and by the way, said the Geneva Convention was a load of bullshit and essentially legalized torture. He also said one of the smart things about calling it the war on terror was that the war on terror can be anywhere in the world, and I can dictate anyone as being a combatant in it, and therefore I can treat them accordingly. We had the scandals at Abu Ghraib. And by the way, George Bush himself also said, I would like to be a dictator. It would make my job a lot easier. So all of that is why I think I have the perspective about Trump I do. I lived through 8 years of Bush, and I watched people in service of this war on terror where, lest we forget, we invaded, we, because it includes the Brits, but the US invaded illegally, according to the UN, two nations that had absolutely nothing to do with the attack. Cost hundreds of thousands of people their lives, for which they've never been held accountable. Now the media holds up George Bush as a benevolent old man who's good at painting. So Trump is what happens, when your politics is like this. It's where it goes. And so that is to say that I don't think Donald Trump should be shot at for campaigning. You can argue, should he be allowed to campaign after what he did? As I pointed out with the whole no one is above the law thing, the issue isn't that people shouldn't be above the law. Yeah, if Trump broke the law, hold him accountable. The issue is, are you going to go back and do it for every other dirty politician? And you're not. And we know that actually, in fact, some people are above the law. And it's the political class. And so until you get a handle on that in America, until you make your elections like what we've just had in the UK, because I thought this was funny. They were all wanking off about the British elections. Yeah, the good guys won. I mean, that's arguable. I wouldn't say Keir Starmer's exactly a fucking bedrock of fucking socialist values, but okay, the good guys won, the left won. They said it about France, didn't they? Oh, Macron and a coalition of communists kept Le Pen out. They didn't win. The far right didn't win, even though the far right got more seats than they've ever had in their history, I think, in any point in French Parliament. All the Americans were going, yes, we can, yes, we can. Well, here's the problem with that. If you love our elections so much, do you want to know how we do our elections? You're not going to like it, America. we have to go in person with our ballot, and we have to show ID, and we put it in a box. Yeah, I know. Crazy concept. You think that's racist? So, if you like our fucking elections so much, how about you fucking do them properly? Your elections are a fucking disgrace. I mean, so... and by the way, it is that gives Trump the ability, even now, after losing fucking dozens of court cases about it, to still say the election was rigged in 2020 because you won't commit to fucking doing it properly. And why won't they commit? Because, well, unfortunately, we know why. We can't risk a free and fair election in America. People might vote the wrong way. And me and all my pals, whether you're in a blue suit or a red suit, we will lose the levers of self-enrichment and power and influence, and we can't have that. So the polarization in America is kind of crazy. I mean, it's always been there, Republicans and Democrats, but, it used to be quite a stuffy affair, and it wasn't really until... I mean, listen, I want to say, even in the Clinton years, it wasn't that bad in the 90s. It really ramped up post Bush. There'd been a kind of solemn dignity to American politics post Watergate. There was a little bit with Reagan, I suppose, and the subsequent, George Bush senior. But really, there'd been this kind of like solemn, quiet dignity around it, where it was like, look, we'll talk shit on the campaign trail, but like we're not going to go too hard in the paint, and it's all handshakes and fucking, cocktails at the end. That all changed. Bush was such a divisive figure and engaged in such absolutely grotesque behavior. He was never fit for office in the first place, George W. He used to be called the Texecutioner. He'd executed more people when he was the governor of Texas than anyone in the state's history. And quite famously, a woman who was being sent to the electric chair, she had killed her husband, who beat her mercilessly for, 15 years of their marriage. She'd been a victim of domestic abuse, and she'd killed him and then had gone to prison, got death, was on death row. She'd already done 2 decades, because appeal after appeal after appeal. And she begged for clemency. Directly to George Bush. And George Bush, as she was crying and pleading, I want to live, I just don't want to die, I'll stay in prison, I'll do anything, but I felt my life was in danger. My husband was cruel. He was terrible. George Bush went, a boo-hoo-hoo, while she begged for mercy from the man that was going to send her to the electric chair. He was fucking human garbage. And so I don't want to hear about the sanctity of office and Trump being some unique, aberration. By the way, I mean, any American who thinks that the White House has some dignity to it, that kind of went out the door when Bill Clinton was fucking interns putting cigars in their pussies so he could smoke them later as a little fucking flavor saver, and then fucking committed perjury before someone had to produce a dress with semen on it to prove he had in fact had sexual relationships with that woman. I mean, at that point, do you think maybe Trump's ruining the dignity of the White House? Do you think that might fall on deaf ears a little bit? So anyway, I know lots of people are going to hate that, because what you're supposed to say is Donald Trump's a fascist and a traitor, and he tried to subvert an election and take over America. And all I can say is I think that should be disqualifying. I wish he wasn't running. What more do you want me to say? Right? But ultimately, your politics is all about winning elections at all costs for either party, and we all know anybody will do absolutely fucking anything, whether it's spying on a candidate, producing false fucking dossiers, rigging elections, using the Supreme Court to deny recounts, voting machines that, for some reason, if you vote for a certain candidate, 1/3 of those votes fucking fall off. Remember, after the final official recount in Florida, I think it was Bush had won by something like 327 votes from the final count, and yet the Supreme Court decided a recount wasn't appropriate because they couldn't deliver it in a set amount of time. So yeah, you just gotta miss me with that shit. I lived through 2000, and I watched George Bush and his brother Jeb, who just so happened to be the governor of fucking Florida at the time, say the night before the election. We're gonna win Florida too. Ain't that right, Jeb? And they did these like mad, manic, piggy little laughs together, like they just knew. So yeah, you've had plenty of rigged elections in your history, I'm afraid, guys. What's one more in a pile? Until you want to reform your politics, just miss me with it. That's where I'm at mentally. Now, that's the preamble. So, Donald Trump, he's doing a rally in Pennsylvania. And during the rally, there are multiple shots fired at him. One goes through his ear. More on that later. The bullet truther movement doesn't agree, even though Snopes does. And two people in the crowd were hit and injured, and one person in the crowd was fatally shot in the head. The shooter was dispatched 26 whole seconds after firing the initial shot by a rooftop sniper. And it is another shocking moment in American political history where, again, if you're like me, you've been around this a long time, you will know that, there was by the way, there was a generation before me that just watched every major political figure get fucking wiped out. JFK, RFK, MLK, it was fucking... So anyway, I'm going to start by playing a CNN full forensic breakdown of the shooting that they've done quite well, because obviously I want to put it into context for what is a very shocking moment. So obviously, disclaimer, you are going to hear gunfire, so...
President Donald J. Trump!
On Saturday, July 13th at 6:02 p.m., former President Donald Trump takes the stage at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Approximately 11 minutes later, he will leave the stage having survived an assassination attempt. Here, we show you what happened in those 11 minutes, from multiple angles and perspectives, captured by both CNN's cameras and witnesses at the rally. CNN has synced footage taken by spectators with the official feed of the Trump rally, by matching the audio of Trump's onstage remarks, which can also be heard in the videos filmed by rallygoers.
This is a big crowd. This is a big, beautiful crowd.
Minutes after Trump says this, at 6:09 p.m., a person just outside the rally spots and begins filming what appears to be a man crawling on a roof.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down, see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
For several seconds, spectators attempt to draw attention to the man on the roof. The building is located approximately 400 to 500 feet away from the rally stage.
We have criminals, we have drug dealers, we have people that should not be here.
On the roof.
A spokesperson for the United States Secret Service told CNN that the agency did not personally sweep the building, but instead leaned on local law enforcement to conduct security at that location. The Pennsylvania State Police said that they were not responsible for the area where the building was located. CNN has reached out to the local Butler County Police Department for comment, but has not heard back.
They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow?
Trump asks his staff to pull up a chart on a nearby screen to show the audience Border Patrol statistics. Trump will later say that his decision to turn his head away from the crowd, something he says he rarely does at rallies, so that he can look at that chart, caused the would-be assassin to miss and likely saved his life. At 6:11, shots ring out.
Take a look at what happened.
Trump grabs for his ear, then gets down on the stage as he is rushed by Secret Service agents. About a minute later, a spectator captures footage of other rallygoers calling for medical aid, indicating that an individual has been shot in the head. The man, who later died, was identified as Corey Comprator, a 50-year-old volunteer firefighter and father of two from Pennsylvania. Two other rallygoers were in critical but stable condition 2 days after the shooting. During this time, the mic picks up someone saying that the shooter has been killed. As he gets to his feet, the mic also picks up Trump asking to put his shoes back on.
Let me get my shoes on.
Hold that in your head.
This guy.
Gotta move to the class.
He later told the New York Post in an interview that when the Secret Service came to his aid, they inadvertently tackled him out of his shoes. After rising to his feet, before leaving the stage, Trump raises his fist and appears to mouth the words, "Fight."
Well, what do we even do with all of this? Wow. Okay. So, first of all, I hope people realize, all joking aside, we came within an inch, a quarter inch of quite possibly widespread wholesale violence all across America. If Trump had been fatally killed, what would have happened in the aftermath would have been horrifying for the country. And there's no getting away from that. There would have been what would have been perceived in the minds of Trump supporters as retaliation for their guy getting killed, because obviously we've had all this rhetoric comparing him to Hitler. We've had all this rhetoric, don't forget, by the way, there was a play, wasn't there, which was an adaptation of a Shakespearean play, I believe. I can't remember which one. It might have been, it was Julius Caesar, I think, where Julius Caesar was Trump in the play. It was put on in New York, and a guy dressed up like Donald Trump gets stabbed to death. So, we've had all of this, like, pretty insane rhetoric around Trump. And put it this way, the Republicans, the Trump-era Republicans, the Trumpians, the MAGA world, they've not exactly been backwards about coming forwards about their thoughts on violence as well. I mean, this is one of the things. I've broadly condemned all of this rhetoric. I'm absolutely consistent on that, unlike some other people, in the sense that it was wrong when you're mocking Pelosi with a home invasion. It was wrong when you were kind of, downplaying, what happened on January 6th, calling them, fucking patriots and heroes. It was wrong when Joy Reid, after Steve Scalise was shot at that congressional baseball game, it was wrong for her to then, as part of her coverage around that story, say, yeah, but, look at his policies on Medicare for all. So if his policies were getting people killed, just saying. It was wrong when the media laughed at fucking Paul Rand getting beat up by his neighbor and breaking 6 ribs. They literally laughed over that on air. They thought that was hilarious. I believe one CNN journalist described it as their favorite story of the year. It's just, it's just ridiculous where it got to. And as I said in the piece, America, when you were Republican, Democrat, you were neighbors with differences, and you didn't have to talk about politics. You could still be friends. Now it's that you are enemies, and if your team is given control of the country, it will be the end of all things. And both sides have absolutely engaged in the rhetoric to get us to where we are now. You cannot say it's only gone one way. I might add, the bullets have only gone one way since 2017, and 2017 should have been a moment, a pause for thought, where a Bernie Sanders supporter who was in Facebook groups that were like, the road to hell is paved with Republicans and other such things, went and just shot a bunch of lawmakers. You cannot say to the American people, who they are so steeped in their own mythology about how they overthrew tyrants, the British, you cannot say day in, day out that this guy's going to be a tyrant. Because there's a lot of unstable people, but you wouldn't even have to be mentally unstable. If you genuinely believed it, that's the sad part. If you genuinely believe what the media are saying, then there's a logic to it. And that logic is what they've pumped out there for so long that, yes, it has bore terrible fruit. It has come to pass in a horrifying fashion. Now, I'll just also add, Donald Trump, his reaction to this guy is like, he's either like the fucking stone cold, fearless dude that like one of the just crazy, like mentally tough, or he is an absolute psycho. Like, I cannot even believe what he did in this moment. Like, yeah, when you're in shock, you do weird stuff, but to get up and do like a fucking black power fist and chat, like, it's insane. I've never seen anything like it. The photo that comes out of it, which we'll talk about later, is going to go down in history. It's like going to be iconic. And I honestly think, in terms of turning point in the election, there's been, I mean, I've been watching the RNC. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end. But there's been this very quite clever tactic of, let's humanize Trump, you know, in the face of demonization. Let's humanize him. You know, his granddaughter's got up there and said, he's always been my grandpappy, giving me candy and all of this stuff. But I think what people saw in that moment was like, yeah, that is kind of badass. It's kind of badass. It's like, it's the most badass American thing. By the way, the photo they get of him with his fist in the air and blood trickling down the side of his face, there's an American flag just in it as well, like, just perfectly, like, just, you know, in the breeze. So it's insane. It's like, you couldn't have, if this was an episode of The West Wing, you would go, Sorkin's jumped the shark, hasn't he? It's wild. But I have to say, there's a lot of people who are kind of like, might have been out on Trump, that are like, well, fuck, like, the guy like didn't even flinch when someone like shut his ear off. And like, I don't know, like, maybe I might want to go out and vote for that. So anyway, that was the breakdown of the incident. There's another story brewing, which I'm not going to touch today, which is that the Secret Service were incompetent. But was it incompetence? Oh, did they want to do it? And there was there's a lot of conspiracy theories to get through today. The long and the short of it is that basically a former president, and I imagine, if all the polling data is accurate, a future president, had been killed, this would have been a disastrous day in American history. And it's kind of sad to see so many people tie themselves up in knots on both sides, because they have these like histrionics, right, about what you do political violence, it's just never okay, why would you support this? And then it's like, you just pull up a tweet from 2 years ago and there they are supporting political violence. Like, everyone's got to fucking get better. I'll also just add as well the embarrassing response from a lot of large conservative accounts. Obviously, there are a lot of people who don't like Trump. Obviously, people are going to make jokes about Trump dying. People are going to make jokes about, oh, wouldn't it have been better if the bullet landed? Right? They're going to do that. It's the internet. What do you expect? Do people mean it? I mean, who knows? Like, who knows? Some people probably do. Some people probably don't. Libs of TikTok got a little old lady fired from Home Depot for making a joke. I thought cancel culture was bad, guys. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this is pathetic. People are going to say these things. Like, we can have a intelligent conversation about whether or not political rhetoric has got to a point in America where we are normalizing things that are fucking making mentally ill people react in this way. We can absolutely have that conversation. What we cannot be doing is going after people that are essentially downstream of that. And like, what does that achieve? Like, how have we moved the dials? Are we healing the soul of the nation by getting an old lady fired? No. So there was a lot of initial reactions, which we'll cover. But anyway, the bottom line is, Trump survives. The Teflon Don does it again. And so initially people really didn't like kind of have a handle on like, you know, what was happening. People didn't know. There was this interview which I saw. This was like this was on the BBC. It's a insane interview from a Trump supporter that happened immediately, like kind of in the aftermath of it. Just listen to this.
Tell us what you saw. So we had a party here all day. You can see behind us.
We'll cut that out,
Griff. Greenhouse here. We had a party, and we all decided, hey, you know, when we hear Trump up there, we're going to walk up through the field, stand by the trees up there under the shade, and watch and listen to the rally, right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, but we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle, absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof, we can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2 or 3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely.
Now, by the way, this is one of the first interviews that came out after what had happened. And in it, we were learning, the Secret Service totally fucked up. There was so this was such a scoop for the BBC. And by the way, I don't even know who this guy is. They've sent a melted Harry Redknapp with a British accent, a quintessential British accent, out to interview just random Trump supporters, and they fucking got this absolute banger. It's just insane. It's just
at least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling the police and the Secret Service?
We were telling the police. We were pointing at them for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
binoculars?
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see. But why is there not Secret Service on all of these roofs here? This is not a big place.
Did you see, obviously everyone, when the shooting started, everyone was very panicked. Did you see what happened to him at all?
Oh yeah, they blew his head off.
Okay, sorry.
Secret Service blew his head off.
Okay, just be careful because we don't quite know who's watching, but you're pretty sure they shot the guy?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
You saw that happen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you see them go up to him afterwards, or?
They crawled up on the roof. They had their guns pointed at him, make sure he was dead. He was dead, and that was it. It was over.
It's incredibly shocking.
The guy was on the roof right there. You can see the white roof right there.
Did you get a look at him? Could you?
No, other than he was in muted colors, tan type clothing. We saw the rifle flinging around as he was trying to crawl. We saw the rifle, 100%.
Do you know about guns? Do you know what kind of weapon it was?
Oh, I absolutely know about guns, for sure. It was a rifle of some sort. I wouldn't know, I wasn't close enough to read the label on it, but,
sure. But
it was a rifle of some sort. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you process what you've just seen?
I don't know what to say, man. All I'll tell you is, if I walked up close to there with anything that Secret Service considered a problem, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you right now. But I don't know why a guy who we're standing there pointing out to police and Secret Service is crawling up the roof.
Were you outside the security perimeter?
Yes, right there by that tree. We were outside the security perimeter. But my question is, there's only a few buildings around here. Why is Secret Service not at every building here?
Well, there's a whole bunch of questions I think that are going to come.
There certainly are.
Trump
Yeah.
flag on the horse?
Yes, she was right in front of me. She kept going back and forth right in front of me. Yes.
Tell us about her.
Nice horse, nice lady running with a flag. Seemed very, patriotic.
But what's the significance of her?
No, he asked me if I saw a horse.
Okay. All right, well, listen, I'm sorry you had to witness that. That was a terrible thing. And you just stay safe with your family and look after yourself. Thanks.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's obviously, in the immediate aftermath, people were still kind of recoiling a little bit from just the general shock of what had happened. But actually, very early on, it was clear that there had been a Secret Service failure of some kind. As you saw in the forensic breakdown, people had seen him before. People had seen him on the roof. People had notified police that he was on the roof. This eyewitness said, we saw he had a rifle when he was on the roof. Anyone would have been able to identify that he was armed. And then as it turns out, what's come out subsequently today, and we're not going to get into it on this because I want to see how it concludes, he was identified as a suspicious person by police a whole hour before he even took the shots. Lots to unpack, and ultimately, no one's going to lose their job over this or resign over this, it looks like, but Republicans have vowed that we're going to have a full investigation, and maybe the head of Secret Service is going to be pressured into resigning. So we will wait and see. Anyway, so that was the first interview that came out. Then the Secret Service, they put out a statement. The Secret Service said, during former President Trump's campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, on the evening of July 13th at approximately 6:15 p.m., a suspected shooter fired multiple shots towards the stage from an elevated position of the rally venue. U.S. Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who is now deceased. U.S. Secret Service quickly responded with protective measures, and the former president is safe and being evaluated. One spectator was killed, 2 spectators were critically injured. The incident is currently under investigation, and the Secret Service has formally notified the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, obviously as well, we kind of know from what we saw that quickly responded with protective measures is kind of overselling it. There was a lot of confusion in the crowd. I can't think of a time, by the way, when someone, any celebrity, political candidate, whoever it might be, has had shots fired at them, and then, like, they weren't even really covering him. It wasn't get down, Mr. President, was it? Not as we think about it. And you didn't know, by the way, they neutralized one shooter, right? But you didn't know if there were others. I mean, there were a lot of shots got popped off towards the end. He just started, like, mag dumping into the fucking crowd, and yet you've let him stand there. And, like, Trump's such a fucking idiot. He's like, yeah, like, bro, there could be someone else. Like, how about we just get you off the stage? Like, just fucking crazy. But anyway, that was the Secret Service statement. Trump, over on Truth Social, said, I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for the rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong. This guy. I knew immediately that something was wrong, in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America. The thing with Trump is he can even make serious occasions inherently absurd. And, like, I hope you realize, as serious as the topic is, and there will be serious moments and solemn and dignified moments, there's also going to be a lot of ridiculousness and a lot of laughing, because I just don't even know, like, what I saw over the past few days is just like, I'll never be able to satirize American politics again. You've done it. You've jumped the shark. It's insane. There was much bleeding. I just can't handle it, right? Anyway, the CNN covered it, and they criticized, right? So think about it, right? Donald Trump is running on fucking adrenaline, in shock, has just had part of his ear caught by a bullet, like nearly died, like just literally just like one head turn from just being dead, and we're all existing in this nightmarish reality that would have thrown up. And CNN decided to criticize him for responding by going fight, fight, fight. They actually did. Here it is.
I do want to say there was one thing that when I watched the tape I found odd, because of all of the heated rhetoric, and that is that after he was hit, former President Trump got up and said, fight, fight, fight. I think what we're hearing from people is that's not the message that we want to be sending right now. We want to tamp it down.
Yeah, I would just know one thing on this, to that point.
I do want to say that.
Why didn't Trump decide seconds after being shot to lower the temperature? Why did his organic reaction that happened in a moment of shock, why wasn't it a carefully curated media message? Why indeed? Wish Donald Trump would fucking pull his head out his arse and start thinking about these things seconds after near death. Then there was like lots of like immediately silly reaction. For instance, there was this NBC, Lester Holt, by the way, he did an interview with Biden that I'll probably talk about on another stream, depending on if Biden drops out of the race or not. But anyway, this is just a classic. They said they didn't know what the shooter's motivation was.
Okay, but you bring up a point I think we will all be talking about, and that is, of course, we don't know what the motivation was for this, but it certainly comes at a time that we are all keenly aware of the deep divisions and the risk of political violence. Is it something you even thought about as you set out to attend this rally tonight?
So, yeah, I guess we will never know the motivations of the person who tried to assassinate Trump. I mean, listen, I am going to do something I rarely do when I put together these videos on happenings. I'm going to speculate. And I'm going to speculate that the motivation was to kill Trump. Right? Now, it's a reach. But I'm just going to go out. I'm just going to put it out there as something to think about conceptually. Obviously, the motivation was to assassinate Donald Trump, of course. I don't even know what are we saying? What would be the other thing? Politico as well. They were like, uh-oh, blood turns to martyrdom as Republicans rally round Trump. And this, of course, was this now new worry that we've already had this pretty, tough time if you're a Democrat, in the sense that Joe Biden shit the bed during the debate. The world now knows he has dementia, something some of us knew in 2019 and tried to warn people about. They didn't have a cohesive plan to replace him, and it's getting worse. I would argue it's been worse since the debate, because he's still stumbling and bumbling and fumbling, but he's doing it with a teleprompter. He's doing it on camera. He's still fucked up because dementia doesn't get better. So now, the fact that Trump survived an assassination attempt, and as I said, has this iconic photo, lots of people are like, yeah, America, that's the kind of badass I want, not Joe Mumbly Biden, not Joe, ooh, can I get up the big stairs on Air Force One Biden. They don't want that, right? So obviously the contrast is crazy. I'll probably play the clip later, but it's appropriate here. Van Jones tonight, while covering the RNC on CNN, he said, right, because Biden's just been diagnosed with COVID, he said, a bullet couldn't stop Trump, but a virus just stopped Joe Biden. So obviously the contrast couldn't be starker. It is a political nightmare. So people are worried now that because Trump gets to look like a martyr, obviously it's very good for his election prospects. And I will add, having watched 3 days of the RNC, my brain is jelly. I will show you some of it, but I have seen things so fundamentally embarrassing, but everyone's unified. By the way, I'll also add, I'm probably going to do a review of the RNC overall, because I have to say, there's been a lot of historic moments, head of the Teamsters Union talking there, Amber fucking Rose popping up and giving a speech. You can see this is a non-typical Republican Party event. But yeah, it's like, it has also been saccharine and embarrassing. Everyone has said the same thing, like, Donald Trump, I saw him stand where most men would cower, and it's oh God, can we not? But yep, they are indeed doing it. Now, there was also a weird thing that happened, right? And that was, you watched the video, yeah? We all saw that. That happened on live TV, by the way. I was I watched it all happen in real time. It was like something like, I don't know, 11 o'clock over here or whatever the fuck. And it was just like, it was just getting ready for bed, doing the scrolly scroll. And it was like, Trump's doing a rally. Pop, pop, pop. Oh, my me. Trump's been shot. What's happened? Oh, the world's gone crazy. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, we were doing a podcast when it happened. Someone had just shot Trump. That was it. So when I was doing the podcast, I had like my news feed open, and there it was. It happened. Yeah. So it was kind of crazy to like watch it kind of unfold in real time. I was very distracted during that podcast because I was like, this kind of feels way more important than anything we're talking about right now. We can only cry about esports journalism for so long, but like this has got really big ramifications on the world stage. But anyway, yeah, there you go. I was doing a podcast. It was past my bedtime because we do the Four Horsemen incredibly late. But anyway, the media decided that we couldn't call it an assassination attempt. You saw the video, you saw what I saw, but they were so adverse to calling it that, and I can't figure out why. It still just doesn't make any sense. This is Kelly O'Donnell from NBC. She called it a shooting incident, right? And then when people called out and said, well, it was kind of an assassination attempt, they then said, our reporting guidelines require that we not use that term until law enforcement describes it as an assassination attempt if when the investigation supports that designation. It is a measured approach for accuracy. There'll be plenty of time to go further as needed. Well, yes, the old media and their reserved accuracy when it comes to matters pertaining to Donald Trump. But she wasn't alone there. This was a classic. This was ABC. Trump rushed off stage by Secret Service as bangs heard at Pennsylvania rally. Anything make those bangs? ABC News? A gun, perhaps? Could that have been the thing that made it? No. It was the bangs. It was just bangs. Trump is a pussy. He got scared of a loud noise and had to be taken off stage. That's what happened, according to ABC in the immediate aftermath. Now, CNN, by the way, CNN were just all over the fucking place with their coverage. Trump's speech interrupted by Secret Service. Any reason why it was interrupted, CNN? Did something happen? Why was it interrupted? I mean, look, I rarely tweet about politics. It's a fucking fool's errand. But the immediate aftermath of the coverage, I was tweeting while I was on that podcast because I couldn't believe it. I did a tweet saying, like, mostly peaceful assassination attempt. It fails or something because obviously CNN is the network that brought you mostly peaceful protests with a reporter stood in front of a city being burnt to the fucking ground. Then CNN did it again on their Twitter account. They said, just in, Donald Trump is rushed off stage by Secret Service during a campaign rally. Rushed off for why? Did something happen? Aren't you the news? Aren't you meant to be the people who run in and tell us what's going on? Don't worry, though. Fox 13, Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls. Oh, he's had a fall, has he? Any reason why he fell? Can anyone enlighten me as to why Trump... Did he just fall over? Oh, God, that's embarrassing. Is he old? Is he infirm like the other guy? What happened there? Well, don't worry, because then CNN updated their headline to say, yeah, Trump fell. He had a fall at a rally. That's what happened. By the way, everybody at this point on Twitter is obviously talking about the assassination attempt that we all saw, that we all witnessed. Jake Tapper said Trump was injured in incident. All right, we're kind of getting a bit closer, but then you see, unfortunately, what kind of incident? Are we going to say an assassination incident? No, we're not actually. In fact, listen to this from MSNBC. Crazy.
Well, first, from what we're all seeing on screen, it does look like there was a noise-generated incident.
A fucking noise-generated incident, guys. It was a noise-generated incident. That was the type of incident. Noise-generated. Now, what instrument made the noise? Was it a gun? And do guns also? Yes, they do make noise. We have bang, bang, shooty, shooty, bang, bang. Yeah, we know. But does something come out like a projectile? And are they really dangerous? And do they occasionally kill people? But no, I just want to play it again because it's one of these. It's like something you would have seen on Brass Eye, a noise-generated incident. That is how MSNBC described an assassination attempt.
Well, first, from what we're all seeing on screen, it does look like there was a noise-generated incident.
It's hard to believe. Okay, surely there's no more of that. Well, no. We had a visit from fucking brick from Anchorman. Loud noises. Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president. That was USA Today. Don't worry, Washington Post got in on the fucking loud noises action. They loved it. Trump rushed off stage after loud noises heard at Pierre Alley. Keep in mind, by the way, somebody is fucking dead in the crowd. Somebody took a shot to the head trying to shield their family from very real bullets. But they were just loud noises, guys. Just loud noises. USA Today went with loud noises, as you saw. Then the Denver Post also dropped this. Gunman dies in attack. I mean, that is fucking spectacular. Okay. Any other relevant details that you might want to bring to the story? Also, it looks like fucking is Donald Trump the gunman? Like, what? Can we fucking get a grip, media? We have to get a grip. So anyway, the media didn't cover themselves in glory in the immediate aftermath. But then, obviously, we had to turn our mind to the real important issue here. A presidential candidate, someone has attempted to assassinate them. Someone is dead in the crowd. 2 other people might die. And, of course, what the mainstream media are worried about is how might Republicans use this to their advantage? And no, Newsweek actually went in, this is in the aftermath of what happened, this is very shortly after, they literally did the Republicans pounce. They did. There it is. MAGA responds with outrage after Donald Trump injured at Pennsylvania rally. Yeah, you see, these Republicans, they do have a pounce and they do have a seize as often as possible. So that's what they went with. But by the way, you can sort of forgive them for that, because Biden didn't want to call it a fucking assassination attempt. He said he would have to wait and receive all of the facts. Here he is. He does well here. I think this was a big boy press conference.
Do you think it was an assassination attempt?
I don't know enough to. I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So I want to make sure we have all the facts before I make any more comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. See you, Joe. Back to Delaware for sleepy nap time. You know, by the way, the idea that Biden is someone who never speaks until he has all the facts at his disposal. You can't make it up. Obviously, as you can see, the mainstream media didn't acquit themselves in glory. There was just an almost reluctance to call this what it was. And of course, it was an assassination attempt. And there are implications around that I don't think the media want to explore. For instance, what's our role in all of this? The media's been radicalizing nutcases for fucking decades with just insane shit that it just pumps out into the into the atmosphere. But of course, Twitter also was a hotbed nightmare of disinformation, as we will get to. But the media decided that even though we had access to the video and other analysis on Twitter first, Musk was in fact a pro-Trump billionaire who was helping shape the shooting narrative, not the media that didn't even want to call it an assassination attempt. And you can see here, the right-leaning business community on Twitter, including Elon Musk and hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman, used their megaphones to endorse Trump and fuel storylines about the attack. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty crazy. Trump did another post on Truth Social. This was kind of his final one on the matter, which is here. This was after he'd been checked up and whatever. Thank you to everyone for your thoughts and prayers yesterday, as it was God alone who prevented the unthinkable from happening. We will fear not, but instead remain resilient in our faith and defiant in the face of wickedness. Do remember, Trump does sell his own Bible, so if you want to get your Trump Bibles, I'm sure they're going to be worth something one day. Our love goes out to the other victims and their families. We pray for the recovery of those who were wounded and hold in our hearts the memory of the citizen who was so horribly killed. In this moment, it is more important than ever that we stand united and show our true character as Americans, remaining strong and determined and not allowing evil to win. I truly love our country and love you all and look forward to speaking to our great nation this week from Wisconsin. Prayer hand emoji, DJT. And then we also had this, right? A CBS reaction to that post. And once again, it was Trump's fault that he got shot at. Why would Trump do this? They read his earlier Truth Social post and said he didn't call to lower the temperature on Truth Social either.
And he closes with God Bless America, and we saw him raise his hand in the air defiantly, blood on his face as he left the stage.
He is recovering from these injuries now. This was a traumatic event, no doubt, for him. But I did notice there was no call for lowering the temperature, condemning all political violence, and really trying to signal to his supporters as well not to retaliate or to have any kind of escalation here. I just am looking at these statements.
There's a belief in his inner circle that he's under siege after being attacked at his rally. And so there's a lot of every text message I'm getting.
Will exactly digest it like you're saying.
I mean, every single text message, literally every single one from Trump sources is outraged and shocked. And so that is certainly the mood inside the highest ranks of the Republican Party, speaking to CBS News tonight.
Right. Okay. There was also this lengthy statement from Melania Trump, which I will read for you. I am thinking of you now, my fellow Americans. We have always been a unique union. America, the fabric of our gentle nation, is tattered, but our courage and common sense must ascend and bring us back together as one. When I watched that violent bullet strike my husband, Donald, I realized my life and Barron's life were on the brink of devastating change. I'm grateful to the brave Secret Service agents and law enforcement officials who risked their own lives to protect my husband. To the families of the innocent victims who are now suffering from this heinous act, I humbly offer my sincerest sympathy. You need to summon your inner strength for such a terrible... your need to summon your inner strength for such a terrible reason saddens me. A monster who recognized my husband as an inhuman political machine attempted to wring out Donald's passion, his laughter, ingenuity, love of music, and inspiration. The core facets of my husband's life, his human side, were buried below the political machine. Donald, the generous and caring man who I have been with through the best of times and worst of times. Let's not forget that differing opinions, policy, and political games are inferior to love. Our personal, structural, and life commitment until death is at serious risk. Political concepts are simple when compared to us, human beings. We are all humans, and fundamentally, instinctively, we want to help one another. American politics are only one vehicle that can uplift our communities. Love, compassion, kindness, and empathy are necessities. And let us remember that when the time comes to look beyond the left and the right, beyond the red and the blue, we all come from families with the passion to fight for a better life together while we are here in this earthly realm. Dawn is here again. Let us reunite now. This morning, ascend above the hate, the vitriol, and the simple-minded ideas that ignite violence. We all want a world where respect is paramount, family is first, and love transcends. We can realize this world again. Each of us must demand to get it back. We must insist that respect fills the cornerstone of our relationships again. I'm thinking of you, my fellow Americans. The winds of change have arrived. For those of you who cry in support, I thank you. I commend those of you who have reached out beyond the political divide. Thank you for remembering that every single politician is a man or a woman with a loving family. So, you know, a bizarre, just in terms of political history, kind of a bizarre statement there, but, you know, one you would kind of expect. So there you have it, you know, it's all good. And as Van Jones pointed out earlier, you know, much like my thoughts, we actually, America is who really dodged the bullet.
Dodged the bullet. But he's not the only one. America dodged a bullet last night.
America dodged a bullet, because if that thing had been a quarter inch over, you would have had an assassination. And then I don't know how this country comes back from that, because half the country would have felt that the other half of the country took their leader. And if only a small percentage of those people felt that means we're in a war, you have millions of people ready to shoot back. And so I was proud of Biden. I thought his tone was right. I hope Trump also mentions it. But this is not just yesterday. We've been moving in this direction for a long time, and we need a U-turn.
So, yeah, me and Van Jones finally agreed on something, incredibly. So, I mean, by the way, I also think, realistically, Van Jones is just one of those people at CNN that performs the news. You know, obviously, remember that Project Veritas video where he was calling Russia a nothing burger while talking outside. And, you know, you've seen a lot of these people. They leave CNN and suddenly they start acting like normal people again and stop pushing out some sort of insane one-sided agenda. I strongly suspect Van Jones is like that, but I'll never forgive him for fake crying on Biden's election day, saying you have no idea what it's like if you're black. Finally, it's all over. It's all over. When I called out that they were crocodile tears, I lost 2,000 followers instantly like that and was called a pig. But I was right. So, whatever. Anyway, there was another solemn monologue from Jake Tapper, who's getting less and less Democrat-y by the day. I have to say, Jake Tapper, his return to the light has been very surprising. But anyway, here we go. This is a pretty good monologue, all things considered.
Hearing from politicians this morning that political violence has no place in America. Would that were true. We are living in an era of political violence. Last night, as you all know, horrifically, a shooter opened fire and tried to assassinate former President Donald Trump at a campaign rally. This was the closest call in terms of a major assassination attempt on a U.S. leader on that level in more than 40 years, since Ronald Reagan in 1981. We do not yet know the specific motivations behind this would-be assassin, sick and twisted, though they assuredly are. But sadly, this is not the first time we've seen this kind of repugnant and un-American violence. In 2011, then Democratic Congresswoman Gabby Giffords was shot in the head and nearly killed by a gunman at
a lot of you won't remember the Gabby Giffords thing that happened. It truly is one of the most shocking moments in fucking American politics. This chick got fucking domed by a nutcase, like 2013 or whatever it was, and like lived. It was like absolutely horrifyingly shocking for anyone who followed American politics at that time.
Constituent event. Other innocent people were killed. A 2017 shooting at a Republicans' congressional baseball practice left Congressman Steve Scalise in critical condition. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, there was the Unite the Right white supremacist rally in Charlottesville that year. In 2020, violence exploded in protests after George Floyd's horrific murder. Then, on January 6, 2021, an attack on the U.S. Capitol and that aftermath, which left multiple Trump supporters and Capitol police officers dead. An individual who left pipe bombs outside the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee buildings.
He's rolling. I'm not going to correct him that no police officers died on January 6th, and that's just nonsense. But whatever, it's fine. It's fine.
Individual still not been identified. In 2022, former Democratic Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, was attacked with a hammer in his own home by an intruder searching for the former speaker. Another man with a gun, a knife, and a zip ties was arrested outside the home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, to say nothing of lesser attempts. Cesar Sayoc, who sent pipe bombs to Democrats and members of the news media, including CNN, in 2018. Last year, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security warned of a high threat of violence from radicalized individuals, lone offenders, or small group attacks that occur with little warning, and said that the 2024 election cycle will be, quote, a key event for possible violence, unquote. The assessment warned of violence against, quote, government officials, voters, and elections-related personnel and infrastructure, including polling places, ballot drop-box locations, voter registration sites, campaign events, political party offices, and vote-counting sites, unquote. There is something troubling the American soul right now. Too many Americans see those with whom they disagree as the enemy, to be shunned, to be banned, to be ostracized, to be threatened with violence, or even to have that violence carried out. As with so many prior acts of violence, we right now see too many awful responses out there to this hideous attack on former President Trump. Responses that are part of this trend. That includes those who, without evidence, are blaming this act of violence on those with whom they have disagreements. We are praying for former President Trump's recovery today and praying for his family and for those victims of the attack. And we urge in the strongest possible terms that this election and all our political differences must be determined by ballots and votes, not by bullets, and that this rhetoric of dehumanization stop. Political violence has no place in America. I wish that were true.
So I think it's like, a pretty good monologue, couple of inaccuracies there, but, we have to maintain the narrative. The bottom line is, I think it sort of somewhat eloquently sums up that, yes, both sides are guilty of this. There is no one that can take the moral high ground on this particular topic. But I will also add, of course, the media... the media will always give itself a pass. I'm going to... if I get time, one of these days I will have to... I've always wanted to kind of like sum up just how ridiculous it is. 2012, right? If you remember 2012, that was Mitt Romney going up against Barack Obama. And Mitt Romney is probably the most milquetoast Republican, like just vanilla Republican you could ever think of. In fact, because he has been vehemently anti-Trump in the modern era, New York Times recently called him a principled public servant. But back in 2012, when he was running against Obama, he was not a principled public servant. They compared him to Hitler. They compared Goebbels, his running mate, Paul Ryan, I think it was. I can't remember. But anyway, got compared to fucking Goebbels. They said he was telling the big lie. They destroyed his life because they were like, so why aren't there more women in your, cabinet or whatever? And he said, well, listen, I actually do want to employ women. I've got binders full of women that will make excellent candidates. The media took that phrase, binders full of women. You can Google this and look it up yourself. And they fucking basically destroyed his life. They said he was sexist. Binders of women, that's a bit weird. Don't you just know women? And all he's trying to say was, I am taking the hiring of competent women as a very serious thing. But yeah, they just fucking absolutely destroyed him. It was so bad. He lost 10 percentage points with female voters that would have ordinarily voted for him, and ultimately never recovered from that. 2012 was a weird so what I'm saying is, this is another reason why I genuinely believe you end up with Donald Trump, because if everyone is Hitler, right, if every Republican in my lifetime has been compared to Hitler, the Republicans have been compared to Nazis, Christo-fascists, nonstop, right? So if everybody is Hitler, then we'll just run a Hitler that wins. We'll just run a Hitler that'll do anything to win and is popular. And there's no... We don't have to have any principles. You're gonna say our guy's Hitler no matter what, so fuck it, right? And so that's what you end up with. Yeah, 2012 was probably where we started getting into hysteria. All the Tea Party stuff in 2012, which was crazy. 2012 was also the rise of kind of Andrew Breitbart through the Tea Party ranks, where I can't remember which candidate it was, but someone, a black politician, had said they went to a Tea Party rally and were called the N-word. And Andrew Breitbart put out a bounty saying if anyone can produce video, I'll pay $100,000 for the video, and nobody could produce it. And it was all, it was 2012. So all the people, by the way, that want to tell you that it's bad now. It's like I say, it's America. It's American politics. I followed it religiously. I didn't just jump in for the Trump bump. I was there. I was a kid. And I knew, when I was super young, like ridiculously too young to care about these things, I knew how primaries worked and all of this stuff, and who was a candidate and who was going to win. I've followed this stuff for decades. And it's like I say, Mitt Romney's a good guy now, but he was a fucking asshole when he ran. Because when you run against the Democrat, that's what the media is going to do to you. All Republicans bad. Anyway, just up there with the Jake Tapper monologue and the Van Jones clip, I do want to say, arise, the Times of India, for having the best headline to come out of this. Donald Trump's death. Well done, whoever wrote that. There's someone in the editor room at the Times of India that fucking knocked that one out the fucking park. God bless you. Right. Also, a reflective Donald Trump did his first interview. This is the Washington Examiner. Not a publication I have a lot of time for. And you can see, Trump, I'm not supposed to be here. The most incredible thing was that I happened to not only turn, but to turn at the exact right time and in just the right amount, Trump said Sunday afternoon in a talk aboard his Boeing 757 as he flew to Milwaukee. If I only half turn, it hits the back of the brain. The other way goes right through the skull. And because the sign was high, I'm looking up. The chances of my making a perfect turn are probably 0.1%. So I'm not supposed to be here. So, very reflective. And as I said, the tenor and tone of that has been reflected in the RNC. That's happened. It's all of Trump's family getting up and saying how much they love him. There was Donald Trump Jr., a close-up of him with tears in his eyes when his dad walked out on day one. We're all waiting for Donald Trump to sort of give his speech and see what he's going to say. He's publicly said he rewrote his speech in the aftermath of the assassination attempt and is going to call for unity. We'll wait and see. I mean, lowering the temperature lasted about 2 days. So we're right back in it. Donald Trump's Hitler and democracy's at stake, and the Democrats are going to destroy our country, and it's just been ridiculous. Anyway, not everyone covered themselves in glory in the aftermath of the shooting attempt. Not just the media either. Mike Collins, he said on Twitter that Biden sent the orders. That was his tweet. Biden sent the orders. Biden... Yeah, listen, Jack. It's time to shoot him. So, yeah, this is at the same time, by the way, Republicans are like saying, all this rhetoric, all this rhetoric's getting out of hand. You've got an actual representative of the House saying Biden ordered the hit. And then Joe Biden obviously did put out a tweet, and he wanted to say, listen, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We are neighbors, friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we are fellow Americans. We must stand together, which is great, but it was like 24 hours prior to the assassination attempt, you literally disseminated a statement saying we're going to put Trump in the bullseye, and you said, he's a rapist, for God's sake, and, Anyway, Biden did come out and address the nation. He didn't do it live. He did it off a teleprompter, and he fucks up a bunch in it because his mind is mush. Now, I'm going to play the whole thing, but I will stop it when you notice that Biden's got it wrong. For instance, just pay attention. He doesn't call him former President Trump. He calls him former Trump. He actually does, yeah. He just jumps into it. Probably he'd been rambling about corn pop or something, so they just start it. It's only 7 minutes, but it's the president, guys. Got to listen to the president.
We're neighbors, we're friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we're fellow Americans. We must stand together. Yesterday's shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania calls on all of us to take a step back. Take stock of where we are, how we go forward from here. Thankfully, former Trump is not seriously injured. I spoke with him last night. I'm grateful.
He's not seriously injured. Okay, all right, it's fine. That's a stutter. Former Trump injured. Okay, it's fine. Former Trump wasn't injured. By the way, can we do another take? We got another one in this? No? Okay, this is the best? All right, he's fine. 4 more years.
He's doing well, and Jill and I Keep him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victims who was killed. Corey was a husband, a father, a volunteer firefighter, a hero, sheltering his family from those bullets. We should all hold his family and all those injured in our prayers. Earlier today, I spoke about an ongoing investigation. We do not know the motive of the shooter yet. We don't know his opinions or affiliations. We don't know whether he had help or support, or if he communicated with anyone else. Law enforcement professionals, as I speak, are investigating those questions. Tonight, I want to speak to what we do know. A former president was shot, an American citizen killed, while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We cannot, we must not go down this road in America. We've traveled before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress of both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
Any others?
Or information and intimidation
2017?
on
No?
election officials.
Okay. My bad.
Or the kidnapping plot against the sitting governor, or an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility.
Now, by the way, just to refresh everyone's memory, Joe Biden ran on a few things. He's repeatedly said he ran because he saw what happened in Charlottesville, and he didn't want Donald Trump to win because Donald Trump said that those people that did Charlottesville were very fine people, when of course he didn't say that. We know that, and he continues to push this lie. He also said he was going to run on lowering the temperature. He said he wants to be a president for everyone. Let's lower the temperature. Then, of course, obviously, when he gave his famous speech with the red light on, basically the I am the Senate speech with Marines on either side, he said that all MAGA voters were extremists. They were extreme MAGA Republicans. And remember, we had a few weeks after that where, because the political messaging was attack MAGA and say MAGA is an extremist movement, we actually had a week where we had mega MAGA and ultra MAGA, if you remember. So, yeah, I'm going to just put this out there. Joe Biden has had multiple opportunities to lower the temperature. He hasn't been interested in lowering the temperature. Why? Because lowering the temperature doesn't help anybody. You need the temperature as high as fucking possible, because when you are angry and when you are agitated, you might just go out and vote, but also you might go out and fucking get a gun and do something horrible. But hey, that's the price we're all willing to pay so we can fucking have our elections and win our elections. And so look, the idea that Joe Biden's done anything to lower the temperature since he's been in office is fucking patently absurd. What we've essentially had to endure since he got elected is we've had to listen to two old cranky geriatrics screaming at each other about how the other guy is the worst, which culminates with the disastrous debate where they're even embarrassingly arguing about their fucking golf handicap. Like, enough's enough, guys.
Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high. I've said it many times.
Sure have.
The choice in this election we make in this election is going to shape the future of America and the world for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul. I know that millions of my fellow Americans believe it as well. And some have a different view as to the direction our country should take. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature. But politics must never be a literal battlefield, and God forbid, a killing field. I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We stand for an America, not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace. All of us now face the time of testing as the election approaches. And the higher the stakes, the more fervent the passions become. This places an added burden on each of us to ensure that no matter how strong our convictions, We must never descend into violence. The Republican convention will start tomorrow. I have no doubt they'll criticize my record and offer their own vision for this country. I'll be traveling this week making the case for our record and the vision, my vision of the country, our vision. I'll continue to speak out strongly for our democracy, stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law, to call for action at the ballot box, no violence on our streets. That's how democracy should work. We debate and disagree. We compare and contrast the character of the candidates, the records, the issues, the agenda on our streets, the law, to call for action at the ballot box, no violence on our streets. That's how democracy should work. We debate and disagree. We compare and contrast the character of the candidates, the records, the issues, the agenda, the vision for America. But in America, we resolve our differences at the battle box.
Now, I could be cheap here and say how ridiculous it is that as the president is wheeled out to call to lower the temperature after his political rival has had an assassination attempt against him, and he says we have to there mustn't be violence, we have to resolve our difference in the battle box. It's just such a classic Biden flub. Every time he needs to have gravitas, he cannot deliver on it anymore. So I'll see you at the battle box, guys, for the peaceful resolution of ideas. The fucking battle box, Joe. The worst part is as well, when you go and look, because every time the president gives a speech, it has to be documented and preserved in the White House archives. They literally, on this one, have crossed out the word ballot and wrote battle. So it is now a matter of public record that Joe Biden said battle box. There is, whatever a battle box is, Biden wants us to be there, totally not battling in the battle box. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how anyone can allow this. As I said, the one good thing that is probably going to come out of the debate and the subsequent freedom with which a lot of Democrats are speaking with, because they are now actually wanting to win the election and they don't think Biden is the person to deliver on that. It's actually a question. How's he fit to run the fucking country if he's not fit to campaign? I've said it. The Dems should 25th Amendment his ass, put Kamala in and run her as the incumbent. Right, that's a game changer. But I don't know. They're not going to do it. Anyway, let's get to the end of this harrowing speech.
You know, that's how we do it, at the battle box, not with bullets. The power to change America should always rest in the hands of the people, not in the hands of a would-be assassin. You know, the path forward through competing visions of the campaign should always be resolved peacefully, not through acts of violence. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America, think about it. What's made America so special?
He just fucking lost it again. You're on teleprompter, homie. Look, dude, you're reading. And he nearly fucking said his opponent's slogan.
So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America, think about it. What's made America?
Like, they have to be playing a trick on him at this point. Who the fuck has put Make America Great Again in that speech? Like, who's done that? Did George Clooney fucking get the keyboard? Like, what has happened? Like, look, listen. Can't say Make America Great Again.
Here in America, everyone must be treated with dignity and respect, and hate must have no safe harbor. Here in America, we need to get out of our silos, where we only listen to those with whom we agree, where misinformation is rampant, where foreign actors fan the flames of our division to shape the outcomes consistent with their interests, not ours. Let's remember, here in America, while unity is the most elusive of all goals right now, nothing is more important for us now than standing together. We can do this. You know, from the beginning, our founders understood the power of passion, and so they created democracy.
Yeah, that's how it happened.
Balance, a chance to prevail over brute force. That's the American we must be. An American democracy where arguments are made in good faith. An American democracy where the rule of law is respected. American democracy, where decency, dignity, fair play aren't just quaint notions, but living, breathing realities. We owe that to those who come before us, to those who gave their lives for this country. We owe that to ourselves. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren. Look, let's never lose sight of who we are. Let's remember we are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
Great job, Joe. You aced it. I don't know why we've just got a long fade out as well. He always says, God protect our troops. That's a Bidenism, if you're unfamiliar. Every speech he gives, he ends it with God protect our troops. It's just a thing he does. I don't know why. Even when he's not talking about anything militarily, he just says that. I'm always this close to a rant about Afghanistan and the 13 dead service people he hasn't even ever named in any speech ever since his incompetence got them killed. So I'm not going to do it. We're not going to do it tonight, guys. There's too much to get through. We're just not going to do it. Anyway, see you all at the battle box. So that was what he said, and then people obviously reacted to Biden's address. This is Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings is the new addition to CNN, the iconoclastic. They're giving him all of these speeches. This is what he said. He said he thought he got the platitudes right, was his initial reaction.
I think he got the platitudes right. Here's where I thought it was lacking. He said the political rhetoric's gotten too hot, and we got to cool it down. And what I wanted him to say was, and you know what that means, me too. Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat to everything America stands for. And a few days later, it's time to put Donald Trump in the bullseye.
Yep.
Now, if the President of the United States had said, I bear some responsibility here, and I'm going to do my part, this would have been a home run. He didn't do that. Instead, he spread it all around, which I guess is as far as he's willing to go. But let me tell you how Republicans are going to take that. They're going to take that as a president who has repeatedly said, I want to heal the soul of the nation, and the buck stops here, but with an unwillingness to acknowledge some of the things that he has said to bring us to a place that he says we're in.
Well,
so I'm not, look, let me stipulate two things. I'm praying for Joe Biden. I have been since the debate. We got to do better. And I'm praying for this country because what happened to Donald Trump was an assault on our democracy, and we should all be mad as Americans because that's what happened. But I need the president to take some responsibility.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Yes.
Like, I feel your passion, and you are restrained compared to the feelings of a lot of people in your party who are very hurt and very mad. I think on our side, though, the passion should also go to Donald Trump. If you want to go through all the mean, terrible stuff he said, there's not the day to go through it. It's a pretty big pile, too.
I'd like to respond to that.
Okay,
because,
please do.
But because you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And this week is the greatest opportunity for a modern presidential candidate since 9/11, for a president or a presidential candidate to unite this country and put us in a better place.
What are
Donald
the chances
Trump,
that's going to happen?
I don't know. I hope good. But Donald Trump has the leverage. He has the capital. He has our attention. And he has the moment. He has the moment.
Jonah.
So that was the CNN response to Biden's speech there. There was also another one that came up a little bit later, which I'll just play you again. Scott Jennings.
Scott Jennings, you're shaking your head.
This man's opponent just got his ear shot off. Okay?
This was after an interview. I'm going to play this a little bit out of sequence. So Joe Biden then did another interview where he, rather than take responsibility for the bullseye comment, he actually said that it was okay because he didn't say crosshairs. So anyway, this was Scott Jennings. He was a little bit less forgiving the second time around.
And his instinct was to try to do some wordplay with the crosshairs bullseye thing, and then turned right around and uttered the lie about the dictator, which is a complete and total lie, and the lie about the bloodbath, which is a complete and total lie. I find this to be pathetic and small and partisan. I need the president to have an ounce of humility and introspection here. He is our leader. He's our leader, and he needs to simply say, I want to lower the temperature. I'll take responsibility for my part. We should all do that together. And he cannot do it. He can't do it.
I understand how upset
without using language that incites people. And I think if we don't, hang on.
Yeah.
And I think if we can't have an honest conversation about that for the next 3.5 months, then we're going to wake up in November in a country we don't recognize.
I'll tell you one way we can have an honest conversation about it, by having an honest conversation about it. Because the bloodbath, the dictator, so much of what the Biden campaign says about Donald Trump is just not
Those are
true.
all things he said,
These
Jack.
are, in your parlance, these are cheap fakes. It's not real.
Those are.
Indeed. So there was quite some heated discussions over there because obviously CNN is kind of changing a little bit now in terms of the network, and Scott Jennings has emerged as, they finally got a Republican voice to kind of push back on some of the Democrat stuff over there. It's made for some interesting discussions reminiscent of a bygone era with things like, Crossfire and that kind of thing. Anyway, on we go. I thought it was kind of cool of NBC to give the game away. They just ran an article, Democrats fret about the political fallout from the Trump rally shooting. The presidential contest ended last night, said a veteran Democratic consultant. It's like, yeah, for all of the talk about lowering the temperature and not normalizing political violence, what are we really bothered about? Trump might have just won the election because, he got a cool photo being shot in the ear. Then we also had this. Please don't blame the media, says the media. This was over at Semaphore. Liberal-leaning media outlets that riveted Democratic audiences through the Trump years are facing a backlash. So it's kind of hilarious to sort of have this here. We also have Brian Stelter, the king of the potato people, is back. I thought it was all over. He wanted to say something healing and unifying. He said, don't be fooled by the social media freak show. The vast majority of Americans have so much in common. We're not at each other's throats over Trump and Biden. We're not in the political arena at all. We're on the porch, at the pool, in the pews. We're not fighting on here. That's what he said, right? So, obviously, we're all pals. We all have so much in common. I want to just point out, Brian Stelter in 2021 gave a fucking insane, it's one of the most unhinged monologues you might hear.
The media are so pervasive now that physical violence erupts more often. Beatings at rallies, bombs at newsrooms. The bombs don't explode, but that's beside the point. Fear is the point. Silence through force. Let's continue down the road a little further. Imagine it's 2024 now. Trump is the GOP nominee. He's feeding off Biden's missteps in a foreign crisis. His big lie from 2020 has become absolute accepted truth in his party. There's a clear difference between the people who pay for news, who subscribe to news sources and want to know what is true, versus people who pay for views, incendiary views, what they want to be true. And that's what MAGA media is all about, incendiary views.
Yeah, no one else
does that.
does that.
For this. It's a giant grift. Even more Save America websites start launching to sell affirmation and merch to the faithful. These sites don't gather news. They spin the news in Trump's favor. They start to publish explicit enemies lists. And in the comments section of the websites, people dream up what they'll do if Trump is denied power, which weapons they'll use, who they'll hurt. At far-right conferences, people ask, when do we get to use the guns? And how many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people? Americans are at each other's throats, spun up by the sick stuff they see on social media. Every day, some random hyperlocal story about a migrant from Haiti or a refugee from Afghanistan is blown out of proportion into some doomsday international story about the death of white America's way of life. This is all you hear about on right-wing radio and on Rumble. They are killing us. That's the general election narrative. And this stuff trickles down, destroying civil discourse, even on the local level. Neighbors turn on neighbors. Normally easygoing local elections turn into existential battles. It feels like there's Republican diners and Democrat diners, Republican bars and Democrat bars. Common ground erodes, largely because there's no common media ground anymore. It's as if America has been swallowed up by QAnon conspiracy theories.
The lack of self-awareness in this speech is stupefying. You almost have to witness it to believe it. But anyway, look, obviously people can change their minds and people can genuinely feel things. And that's 2021. And I'm sure that Brian Stelter has obviously moved on and wants to get us to a healthier place and wants to have healthier conversations and not drive that divisiveness that he's lamenting. He's saying, look, we don't fight, we're all pals. Except it was only a few weeks ago he contributed to the New Republic. And this was the thing that they created. They did a special called What American Fascism Would Look Like. And I don't know what they've done to that picture of Donald Trump, but he looks a bit different there. I can't quite put my finger on it. Now, you will see, this is Brian Stelter, was one of the journalists that contributed to this. I've read all of these articles, by the way, because I'm mentally ill, and they are all as bad as you would think. American fascism, the day one dictatorship, there he is with Mussolini, the permanent counter-revolution, the end of civic compassion, the liberal fantasy is just that, blah, blah, blah. But Brian Stelter wrote a fan fiction about what would happen under a Trump government. So, revenge and freedom from fact on the media in a fascist America. So this article he contributed, which you can see from the date, wasn't that long ago. He literally writes a LARP, a fan fiction, about what will happen if Donald Trump essentially outlaws freedom of the press in America. And it's actually insane. It's like he's fantasizing about this stuff. Let me read you the fucking insanity of what he fantasizes about. Imagine, on the day of Donald Trump's inauguration, a raucous protest by left-wing groups on the streets north of Lafayette Park. The blocks surrounding the White House are cordoned off with layer after layer of fencing due to the unrest in major cities following Trump's re-election. But a few dozen very motivated activists barrel through the park all the way across the inauguration parade route, along the park's southern edge and inside the White House perimeter. Weapons are drawn, emergency plans are activated, and Trump is rushed to a deep underground bunker. Order is restored within minutes, but not before the break-in is shown live around the world, since all the major networks have live camera positions on the North Lawn. Online sleuths notice that a few of the protesters appear to be wearing press credentials. They're fakes, it turns out. And in one stray live shot that gets clipped and decontextualized and shared all across pro-MAGA social media, a CBS correspondent gives a water bottle to a man screaming in agony after being pepper sprayed. That's all it takes for a narrative to take root on the right. The media is complicit. They're in on it. They're going to assassinate our president. How terribly this is aged. Trump feels humiliated and attacked on what's supposed to be his most triumphant day. He and his aides want what he famously promised: retribution. Knowing that the Northwest Gate is a key access point for journalists, the White House aide starts a rumor that the assailants were aided by CNN and CBS news crews. Trump, who's glued to the live coverage, grunts to his chief of staff, "Get them off my lawn." Members of his inner circle, so fed up with years of accountability journalism and so deluded into thinking that Trump's way is the only way, see a chance to go further and squeeze independent media off the airwaves. Get out, they say. Get out of our way. The security breach becomes a pretext for a project that's been on the minds of MAGA leaders for years. After all, Steve Bannon's 2018 promise to flood the zone with shit was just the beginning. Trump's enemy of the people proclamation gave permission to his fans to go further, to delegitimize and dehumanize journalists and make alternative facts the only facts. For the coup plotters of 2020, one lesson of Trump's loss was that Trump needed to exert more control over the media in order to prevail. He needed to own the media. Ergo, Truth Social, which emerged in the aftermath of January 6th. The far-right's memory holing of the attack, minimization of the violence, and rebranding of rioters as hostages were successful tests in MAGA media's reality rewriting capabilities. Trump's violent rhetoric emboldened his devotees. During the Biden years, pro-Trump trolls daydreamed that once back in power, they would imprison journalists and crush opponents, and they were welcome to, say, on Elon Musk's X. And as an ex-CNN anchor, I saw it in my mentions when MAGA diehards fantasized about having me locked up at Guantanamo Bay. Gitmo is in your future, you filthy Nazi traitor, Demo KKK rats belonging Gitmo. All of you deserve to be jailed. Anonymous threats were accompanied by brash promises by Trump loyalists. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Former Defense Department official Kash Patel told Bannon in 2023, we're going to come after you, Patel promised, whether it's criminally or civilly. Bannon, overjoyed, said, we're absolutely dead serious. Anyway, the rest of the article is just him fantasizing about being beaten up and thrown in prison because Trump totally did that to all those journalists when he was in power the first time. So when Brian Stelter tells you, oh, we're not like this, we don't, this isn't what we do, ignore the freak show. He is part of the fucking freak show. I would argue he is a fucking principal exhibit in the freak show. I'll also just add, it wasn't that long ago, Huffington Post, which is meant to be like a benign blogging website, soon no doubt to be just completely AI written articles. They, in light of the Supreme Court ruling, they did this. Supreme Court gives Joe Biden the legal okay to assassinate Donald Trump. Now look, there was a lot of bad journalism, there was a lot of bad reactions, there was a lot of bad media press, just in the aftermath. But none will beat Forbes. Forbes had the uniquely terrible, the worst article to come out of this, so much so they pulled it after a few days. And here it is. Will surviving gunfire be Donald Trump's next appeal to black voters? This article was written, apparently, by a diversity, equity, and inclusion expert called Sean Harper. I don't even know how to process that. Where do I put that one? Anyway, deleted now, of course, as the New York Post was recognized and reported upon. It was an article so bad it lasted 2 hours, and it being pulled was a new story in itself. Now, that being said, here's 50 Cent. Right, so there was actually a story circulating the day of the RNC that 50 Cent was approached by the Republican Party to perform at the RNC and give a speech. That was being circulated by theoretically credible news sources. So, that is just the epicenter of insanity at that point. If you ever thought 50 Cent would be at a Republican National Convention, I don't know. But anyway, so, look, I'm just putting that out there. Also, it sort of did permeate into pop culture a little bit. I love it when my two worlds of politics and esports intersect. This is what FaZe Clan tweeted. I guess it's okay to tweet that. And it happened again because, as you know, Elon Musk's X.com, formerly Twitter, now has something called Grok, which is an AI he's also developed, and he has Grok do the news, and sometimes they do humorous and satirical versions of the news, but you can just click on it and it'll bring up, fucking loose AI summary of the news. But the problem was the AI, it's a flawed thing. It got mixed up and it actually started to report on the Donald Trump assassination attempt as if it was the CSGO copy pasta. Here it is. This is what was put out on X. An assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump occurred during a rally. The shooter fired multiple shots, with the first 5 clearly missing. Shots 6 through 9 were missed due to recoil and poor spray control. Shots 10 and 11 were close, but missed due to recoil and inaccuracy. So, yeah, they have to understand, guys, there was a reason I wasn't streaming when all of this was happening. My brain was fucking capsizing. I couldn't handle it. So anyway, let's segue into the uptake of all the usual people blaming Donald Trump for it was his fault as to why would Trump have himself assassinated? Why would he do this? This was ABC. George Stephanopoulos, who you'll remember, of course, having done Biden's first interview after the debate, and Martha Raddatz. Here we go.
President Trump and his supporters have contributed to this violent rhetoric as well.
Well, absolutely, George. We were just looking back this morning at some of the things that former President Trump has said. He warned last March of potential death and destruction if he were charged by the Manhattan District Attorney. Our country is being destroyed as they tell us to be peaceful. Trump in January warned of bedlam in the country if the criminal charges against him succeeded. And of course, in March, he said, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
Now, of course, as we know, because I've covered this in multiple pieces of content now, the bloodbath was indeed the economic meaning of the word, and he was specifically talking about the car industry. They just can't do it. They can't even leave it a single day. So you have that. This was also a thing. This is Jacqueline Marceau. You won't recognize the name. Don't worry about it. But she is a field director for Congressman Benny Thompson, who Benny Thompson was the head of the January 6th Commission and was also the guy behind legislation to take away Trump's Secret Service detail after he was convicted. And she's on social media saying, I don't condone violence, but please get you some shooting lessons so you don't miss next time. Oops, that wasn't me talking. We'll wait and see what happens with that. Joe Scarborough was absolutely livid. He was seething, but he had to say something. He said political violence has scarred America's landscape from JFK through January 6th. Republican and Democrat politicians alike have been victims, and this violence has caused incalculable harm to America. Thank God President Trump is safe. I bet he was fucking absolutely spewing about having to type that last part. This is Dean Obeidallah in a deleted tweet. Does the attempt on Trump's life help him win in 2024? Absolutely not. Does it increase the chances of more MAGA terrorism? Absolutely. And obviously here we are. You know, whatever it's been now, 5 days later, no retaliation, no responses, no riots, no nothing. So just saying, just putting that out there. Then we obviously we've got to get more Hitler comparisons in. That's obviously helpful. This isn't really a serious person. This is Alejandra Caraballo, who you've probably had the misfortune to read tweets from before. Trump will use this as his Reichstag moment to crack down when he's elected. So we're going to have the Reichstag. There's only one thing worse than having the Reichstag. What if it was the Reichstag times the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, as Americans try to fucking grasp history? Not to be overly dark, but this attempt on Trump is a very much a worst-case scenario. He's going to spin this into the equivalent of the Reichstag fire and the assassination of Franz Ferdinand rolled up into one, and this is going to make the extremists dangerous. Of course, this is Senator London Lamar. While I'm praying for former President Trump and hope he makes a full recovery, the extremism from the MAGA regime brought us to this moment. Why would Trump do this? And then Nancy Pelosi, bless her, she put down the box wine for 5 minutes and decided to get in there and make it all about her, starting as one whose family has been the victim of political violence. I know firsthand that political violence of any kind has no place in our society. I thank God that former President Trump is safe. As we learn more details about this horrifying incident, let us pray that all those in attendance at the former president's rally are unharmed. Now, that's the first chapter of the stream. That is the shooting and the initial aftermath and the reaction to it. This segment will now be about the shooter and how Twitter amplified all of the wrong things it could amplify, including getting the identity of the shooter wrong. So, the shooter was ID'd as this chap. This is the report in the New York Post. that it was Thomas Matthew Crooks was ID'd as the gunman who shot. And so what do we know about Thomas Matthew Crooks? Well, Thomas Matthew Crooks was a 20-year-old student who was from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. He obviously, we don't know much more. They've been on this for days. The only things that we really had in his in terms of details about him was this rather confusing blend, because they were a registered Republican, is what we were told, but on the day of Biden's inauguration, he donated $15 to Act Blue, which is obviously a PAC that does things for Democrats. So it created this somewhat confusing picture of who the shooter might actually be, but also encouraged, as we are used to now, whenever there's a shooting or an atrocity, we don't go, oh God, I hope everyone's okay. We go, oh God, I hope it isn't my team that did it, right? Because then you lose all that moral high ground and you sat there and you're hovering over your keyboard, or you've got your thumbs on your phone and you're ready to tweet your hot take shit out. You're ready to fucking say it. You want to condemn, but what if it's one of ours? So obviously, you have to do this. There were reports. They've still not really got anything on this guy. There's still not a complete picture as to who he might be. And while I think we can at least intuit their motivations, we did have this. This was a news report that kind of broke out about it. And it was another MAGA talking point down the drain. Thomas Crooks, who donated $15 to Act Blue, is a 69-year-old Democrat who lives in Pittsburgh and just happens to have the same name as the Republican who shot Trump. But this was wrong. Alex Cole got it totally wrong. That isn't accurate. It was his donation to Act Blue. But there was this giddy, breathless attempt to, oh, well, if he's a registered Republican, he's definitely got nothing to do with Democrats. We're Democrats. We're the good guys. We don't shoot people. So that misinformation was circulated. Then you had this, which was also staggering. There was a video of a guy with long hair who looked a little bit like the shooter, screaming, slit their throats, I believe talking about Republican throats. And this was being shared as, oh, look, there were signs that he was crazy. This got millions of engagements. You can see as well, it turned out that was from years ago at an Arizona State University. It was just another nutcase, by the way. They're out there. They walk among us. So there was that. Then you had this guy. This was just a troll who flew too close to the sun. This guy self-identified as the shooter. Spoiler, I don't know why anybody would ever do that, right? And you can see here, all of the usual terrible accounts on Twitter just uncritically shared this information. A photo of the shooter today, because they wanted to make a joke about the weak chin. Fucking Laura Looney said the shooter who tried to assassinate President Trump at his rally tonight is 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Breaking, the Trump shooter's been identified. And so this guy basically Sam Hyded himself for the banter, for the lulz. But obviously it didn't fucking end particularly well. The guy, I believe, deactivated and deleted his account. You can also see here, when it went viral the first time, he recorded a video of himself saying, I'm not the shooter. But I do hate Republicans and I do hate Donald Trump. And then that got shared saying, look, video services of Trump shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks from before the shooting, even though anyone with a brain could see the timestamp on the fucking video. This is the alleged shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, saying, I hate Trump, I hate Republicans, and that they got the wrong guy. Nevertheless, proof that too much mainstream media and the consumption of too many seed oils are bad for you. Yes, it's the seed oils what are to blame. So anyway, I want to just also point out there was something that I noticed recently. Like, whatever you want to say about the improvements of Twitter or how Twitter's got worse, they have really got to work on the way misinformation is circulated on their platform. I saw in real time the spread of a story. It was completely uncritical, like nobody even for a second tried to assess the validity of it, and it was all the usual accounts. I want to just show you the example of this story, right? Biden is reportedly experiencing a medical emergency on Air Force One, right? Now, this story, as you can see, I just made note of this because it's the things that, like, you know, I pay attention to. This was on the 5th of July. The source of that medical emergency was Laura Loomer, right? Which, why anybody would listen to that psycho? It was a single source, Laura Loomer. They all uncritically repeated this, and they were doing the whole thing where they LARP as journalists, and they go breaking. Like, you're not breaking anything. You heard a second-hand fucking story on Twitter from a psychopath who invents stories all of the time. Breaking, unconfirmed reports now indicate Joe Biden may have had a medical emergency on Air Force One. This story is developing. No, it's not developing at all. And then the other guy, another account, there are unverified reports. If they're unverified, and you're a journalist, how about you fucking verify them? There are unverified reports Joe Biden is having a medical emergency and the press was removed, right? It was just ridiculous. So one of the things I've noticed about the new look fucking Twitter is just what a shit show it is to being able, you might get the information quick, but you also have to disseminate what is true and what isn't. And so, obviously, with the fucking shooter, you ended up with nonsense like this. There were tweets being unironically shared, right, announcing that Hank Pecker was the shooter, right? So, Hank Pecker, a meme on Hassan Piker, perhaps most embarrassingly of all, an Italian football commentator. Like, no joke. This guy was called Mark Violets. He was accused of having shot Donald Trump. He is an Italian football commentator. Like, Marco Violi is his real name. You can see here. Screenshots have surfaced on social media that incorrectly state that police have arrested an individual known as Mark Violets for the attack on Donald Trump, which injured the presidential hopeful's right ear and killed a spectator. The image features a photo of a man wearing a black hat and glasses, as well as a caption that states Butler Police Department confirms the arrest of Mark Violets, identified as the Trump shooter and a known Antifa extremist. Before the attack, he uploaded a video on YouTube claiming justice was coming, the caption reads. However, this isn't true. The man depicted as Italian sports writer and blogger Marco Violi, who runs a YouTube channel dedicated to football teams like AS Roma. Mark Violets is a clear attempt at translating his name into English. So, people just out there just sharing all of this fucking garbage. What else? Well, what do we know? Well, what can we break down? I mean, we had this, the Daily Beast went and interviewed a guy that knew him in school and lost touch with him and said he was definitely a conservative. It was super important that somebody went out and did this important story and proved that he was a conservative. And as I said, the sourcing in this is pretty weak. But then again, we can make some determinations. He was in a gun club at school, right? So, you know, not a lot of liberals do that, I suppose, but whatever. So he was totally a conservative, guys. We also know he had a Discord account. How do we know he had a Discord account? Well, because Discord came out, said he had an account, and said not to worry because they removed it. So the person who attempted to assassinate former President Donald Trump during a rally on Saturday had a Discord account, though it was rarely used, according to the company. Discord removed the account according to our off-platform behavior policy, and we are assisting law enforcement in their investigation. So there you go. He's just like all of us. He had a Discord account. In fact, also, somewhat ridiculously, what we got told today was he announced it on Steam, what he was going to, well, he alluded to what he was going to do. So here we go. This is over at Yahoo. Trump gunman posted on Steam before the attempted assassination. He posted several messages. I believe the message he said was something along the lines of, like, pay attention tomorrow. Yeah, July 13th will be my premiere. Watch it as it unfolds. So Just a normal, stable, healthy guy. Anyway, we also know that New York Times announced that after days of saying we can't get into the shooter's phone, gunman's phone had details about both Trump and Biden. FBI officials say there's this weird swirling narrative right now that maybe the plan was to somehow do both of them. I don't know. That's all speculation on social media. But again, the media are strongly putting it out there that like maybe this just wasn't, he wanted only to get Trump, that he was just disaffected politically with all sides. Eric Swalwell, though, of course, we all remember him. He didn't waste any time. Shortly after details of the shooter came out, he said, I don't know why a Republican would try and kill his party's own nominee with an assault rifle, but it's wrong. Violence has never been the answer. Violence is not the answer. Violence will never be the answer. So, but worst of all, wasn't all of this like desperate clamoring to put the shooter on one side of the debate so the other side could turn around and say, see, we're still the good guys, when of course nobody is the good guy in any of this. Unfortunately, it was revealed that he had appeared in a BlackRock ad, and this led to the start of the crazy. Chapter 3, the start of the crazy. BlackRock says suspect from Trump rally appeared in a 2022 ad. This melted the brain of every fucking rightoid moments after it happened, because the premise has to be that because BlackRock went and shot at a school he was at and he was an unpaid person in the video, actually what they did is they deployed their handlers to recruit a mentally unstable man. They MK Ultra'd him and then deployed him at the right moment. Right? So that was like, what? BlackRock? Now, BlackRock obviously are doing a bunch of fucking shady shit, but they're probably not in the business of recruiting mentally unstable people 2 years in advance to assassinate the president, and the evidence of that is 15 seconds of footage in a promotional video. But they didn't help it, because then they deleted the video, and so conspiracy theories started to run amok. BlackRock totally acknowledged that he was in the video. They didn't hide it in their statements to the media. They just deleted the video because maybe you don't want someone who just shot at a fucking president in your promotional videos. I don't know, but what do I know? I'm just a normal guy. So anyway, Thomas Crooks, the suspect in Saturday's attempted assassination of former US President Donald Trump at a campaign rally, briefly appeared in an advertisement for BlackRock, the company said on Sunday. In 2022, we ran an ad featuring a teacher from Bethel Park High School in which several unpaid students briefly appeared in the background, including Thomas Matthew Crooks, the world's biggest asset manager, said in an emailed statement to Reuters. They also added the assassination attempt on former President Trump is abhorrent. Well, that sounds like something that a company that activated a sleeper cell to assassinate the president would say. Can't fool me. So the crazy begins. Mario Narfal, he said, they pulled the video. Look, he did a tweet about it. They're pulling the video. BlackRock, look, he's done the red light emoji. BlackRock pulls ad featuring Trump assassination attempt gunman. BlackRock's pulling an ad that featured Thomas Crooks, the gunman who shot Trump. They're doing it. Look, there he is in the video.
Brian
Let's have a look at the.
I teach AP and honors economics in Pittsburgh,
program.
Pennsylvania.
And there he was.
Financial well-being to me is knowing that I can be free to do the things that I love to do. I hope when I retire someday, they say that guy made this place a special place to come to school and gave as much as he could to help the community.
Right, and then if you rearrange, all of those letters, it spells assassination. It doesn't. So look, obviously people just went fucking crazy. They just went fucking psycho after this. I'll just summarize it with what might be the most incredible TikTok on this topic I came across. It's you're gonna have to really get your head ready for this one. It was posted by prominent account Joe Biden Hates Black People. Here is who saw this TikTok and deemed it worth sharing with his followers. Just buckle up.
It's time to stop pretending that the conspiracy theories surrounding the attempt on Trump's life are totally invalid or totally illegitimate. Because when there's an attempt on a man's life that is trying to run the same government that assassinated Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, RFK, JFK, I mean, the list goes on. I think that it's okay to ask questions, right? So for 1 second, just abandon the binary mindset of Trump versus Biden or Republican versus Democrat, and let's look who stands to benefit in the facts surrounding the issue. Trump did not, nor has he ever supported a war between Russia and Ukraine, and has reiterated this over and over again. On July 12th, Orban, the president of EU and the prime minister of Hungary, who is also against the war in Ukraine, met with Trump on a peace mission. On July 13th, there was an attempt made on Donald Trump's life. Now, why do I bring this up? Because it wasn't too long ago that now EU President Orban met with Prime Minister Fico. And Fico also wants peace between Russia and Ukraine. Shortly after that meeting, Fico had an attempt on his life once he became Prime Minister. Now, some of you all might not remember, but it wasn't that long ago that Project Veritas exposed a BlackRock recruiter who said that BlackRock is making tons of money off of the war in Ukraine due to the instability and the investments they have there. But maybe you didn't know, around that same time it was announced that JP Morgan and BlackRock have almost $1 billion in capital invested in the reconstruction of Ukraine. It was reported that a Ukraine reconstruction bank is being set up in Kiev with the help of BlackRock and JP Morgan that has at least $500 million in committed capital and could be ready to launch in 5 or 6 months with close to $1 billion. Enter the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, the 20-year-old who tried to take out Trump. Despite the fact that Thomas is from one of the smallest towns in Pennsylvania, he just so happens to coincidentally be in a BlackRock commercial from 2022.
That's correct. It's a coincidence, yes.
Yep, that's the same year and time frame that the war with Russia and Ukraine started. And maybe you're like me, where you thought there's no way, that just is too much of a coincidence. Except for BlackRock comes out today and admits it's him and pulls their ad off of all their sites. So if you couple everything we know about BlackRock plus the fact that we know Trump wants nothing to do with helping Ukraine more than we already have, plus the fact that this guy and others warned about the shooter and the police and the Secret Service and their snipers did nothing, this breaking news from NBC that spot on the roof was a known vulnerability and had been accounted for the day before the rally, and the snipers actually had the green light to take out the shooter without any permission, or the fact that taking out Trump on Saturday, right before the Republican convention on Monday, would mean Nikki Haley, probably the most pro-war hawk when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, would end up being the nominee versus Joe Biden. Or the simple fact that the U.S. government is known to take out anybody or anyone who stands in between them, their wars, and the money for the corporations they work for. We cannot just dismiss these theories out of hand because they make us uncomfortable. We have to investigate them, because conspiracy theory lately has turned into conspiracy fact more quickly than ever before.
So, I'm not saying that the BlackRock thing gave everybody fucking brainworms. But unfortunately, it gave everyone brainworms. And by the way, if you're enjoying laughing at how fucking insane the Rhetorics were, oh, don't worry. Blue Anon's right round the corner in chapter 4. But, yes, the BlackRock thing just broke so many brains. I saw some tweets that were just like, just off the fucking reservation, guys. Like, it just saw beyond the pale in terms of, like, normal, healthy reactions. Like, for example, it came out that when they finally got through the shooter's phone, you can see here, this was Punch Bowl, Senate briefing on Trump rally shooting just concluded. Top lines per 2 senators on the call. The shooter visited the rally site a few days in advance to scope it out. 62 minutes elapsed between the time the shooter was photographed as being suspicious and when he fired the shot. So I told you about earlier that they noticed him as suspicious an hour before he got to shoot at Trump. 20 minutes elapsed between the time he was spotted by snipers and when he fired the shots. FBI Director Wray said there's no known foreign nexus, but no established motive as of now. Shooter used encrypted comms and had little to no social media presence. And obviously, encrypted comms. Encrypted. Who was he talking to? Why? What? Where? And so you get stuff like this. Shooter used encrypted communications, according to Christopher Wray. But who was the communication with? And you see accounts like this, and then it's like, okay, well, good question. Got any other thoughts about this particular topic? Well, you must pay attention. 2 senators, 2 snipers, 2 vehicles, 2 photos, 2 phone calls, 2 cell phones. A series of 222s demand you pay attention to the connections and try to find unity between those connections wherever it is possible. If you know, you know. I'm afraid hashtag numbers matter. I don't know. I don't know. What are you even trying to say? But we'll never get to the bottom of it. It's just if you know, you know. We had an account post a picture that I believe is fake. They wanted the shooter to be either trans or non-binary. This is from another terrible account, Paul Hookham. Anyone wondering why they aren't using this photo of the shooter? That was an interesting one. We also had this. This is the Patriot Voice. I have done photography as well. It is very unusual for a photographer to use 1/8000 shutter speed at 30 FPS in broad daylight, unless you are intentionally trying to clearly capture something happening very fast, like a bullet blowing someone's head clean off their shoulders in great detail. This New York Times photographer, Doug Mills, New York Times, knew something was going to happen. Otherwise, there would be no reason to have camera settings in this configuration, in these conditions. This is a very damning tell, no question. Then, of course, community noted into the fucking Stone Age. Shutter speed is not just used to capture fast objects, it's also used to turn down the brightness. Since this photo was in full sun, it is common to have a high shutter speed. By the way, it's one of those complete fluke photos that will go down as actually fucking remarkable. But obviously, the journalists knew. I need you to sort of assess where they're at in the conspiracy line of thinking. So, right, we're going to assassinate the president. We've activated our BlackRock sleeper cell. We're going to assassinate Trump, and we want the head explosion to be caught in all of its gory details as a lesson to anyone that might run against the deep state ever again. So we better tell all the photojournalists, because if you don't get a photo of his head going pop like a melon, we can't intimidate all the future people that are going to go after that's where we're at, guys. That's your fucking theory. That's where we're at. The Patriot Voice. So yes, these people lost their fucking minds. Brainworms. You also had this. This is like another thing. This is from the MJ Truth Ultra account, another prestigious right-wing news distributor. You can see here they played a clip, and the clip was, I guess we can sort of run it. This is on CBS.
Successfully gained access to the shooter's phone, looking for any information on a motive. Investigator Megan Hickey has been tracking the developments. Megan, we're learning the shooter's father actually called police after the shooting.
Right, Erica. Law enforcement sources tell CBS News that the gunman's father called local police after the shooting took place. Right now, we don't have details about the nature of that call or the exact timing, but investigators say the family of the shooter is cooperating. Meanwhile, new video posted to social media also shows some attendees at the Trump rally noticing the gunman on the roof and alerting police at least 1 minute before.
So the parents cooperating And saying that he was missing beforehand is also part of a conspiracy. This, of course, in a much more detailed video posted to Rumble that I can't wait to consume in my spare time. Crux's father was looking for him hours ahead of the assassination and called police. This is highly suspicious. Why would they report him missing if he was supposed to be working that day? Oh, I don't know. They probably acting abnormally, probably didn't go into work, probably concerned parents. But no, you see, they are creating a narrative in real time. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Now, yes, the right wing went completely batshit over this stuff. But you know who else did? Yeah, the lefties, those good guys, the people that you like. They were arguably even more batshit. What trended after the assassination attempt was the word staged. Very strong uptake for that. Lots and lots of people believe this was a staged assassination attempt, even though someone died. Cenk, he waded in and said it was a BB gun.
Hey guys, Trump's been shot. When he got up, he was bleeding from the ear, but he seemed perfectly fine. He's not dead. He's fine. Like, my best guess, and this is just a guess because he was just shot, is that he was, it looked like a BB gun or something. Hey guys.
Yeah, so a BB gun capable of taking someone's head off. So yes, it was a BB gun. It was, you know, we've got to downplay it. Then we also had a semaphore exclusive. A Reid Hoffman, a significant donor, said that he was pushing privately that he wanted journalists to consider the fact that maybe Trump staged it. There's some insane rhetoric thrown around in this. In an email Saturday at 7:34 p.m. that appeared to be addressed to sympathetic journalists and was also sent to Semaphore, Melhorn wrote that one possibility, which feels horrific and alien absurd in America but is quite common globally, is that this shooting was encouraged and maybe even staged so Trump could get the photos and benefit from the backlash. This is a classic Russian tactic, such as when Putin killed 300 civilians in 1999 and blamed it on terrorists to ride the backlash to winning power. Others who have embraced this tactic of committing raw evil and then benefiting from the backlash include Hamas on October 7th. If any Trump officials encouraged or knew of this attack, that is morally horrific, and Republicans of decency must demand that Trump step down as unfit. So there you go. That was the last straw in his fitness for office, being fucking shot. You know, you have to understand, Blue Anon is adjacent to the White House. I mean, this is a prominent person that gets to talk to Joe Biden and politicians, and they're so unhinged about Trump, they think he would actually have fucking staged his own assassination attempt. By the way, Representative Antonio Parkinson, I certainly hope this is not a staged act, but that was, and again, this is moments after it happened. We also had this. This was another Democrat, Representative Stephen Woodrow. The last thing America needed was sympathy for the devil. But here we are. We also had this. This is from Tim Jacob Wise. The fist pump shit after Trump was shot is too perfect. No way someone thinks to do that after an actual assassination attempt. It's what a MAGA scriptwriter would write, though. Right? We also had fake blood was another theory. That Trump, because he'd been in wrestling, he'd bladed himself or used like some sort of fake blood capsule. Let me see if I can get you this tweet here. Yeah, here we are. That is not, I repeat, not a gunshot wound. He faked it with a blood pill, nothing more. If that is a gunshot wound, then they used a BB gun, you fucking clowns. Trump just knows how stupid his cult is. Just as stupid as Biden's cult. So we had there was a strong uptake for that. Crisis actors were back in vogue. Obviously, Alex Jones was bankrupted and ruined for claiming crisis actors happened at Sandy Hook. We're good here. Got to pay your crisis actors better. They never looked more unbothered. Then we had another more shit look staged. This is your boy Alex Cole. 0-2 here. Somebody also threw this in there. This is Jennifer Sturger. Some of y'all have never watched pro wrestling, and it shows. Then we had A to the Z. I'm not going to lie, this is a very weird after reaction. Why would you open yourself up to more potential harm after thinking you were almost assassinated and yelling, fight, fight, fight? I don't know. He did do that, but I don't think it was because it was staged. Do you? Then you had this, Charles Conway, Trump's campaign team, let's shoot you, implying it was part of the strategy. And now I never show stuff like this, by the way. I never just play videos of plebs and normal people. But I want to show you just how broken some people's brains are. This is James Klug, a YouTuber. He interviewed people on the streets not long after it happened. And this is what people were saying.
Oh, it's a false flag.
False flag.
Yeah, false flag.
Somebody died and 2 people injured. What do you think about that?
False flag.
False flag.
I thought it was magnificently staged. It was professionally done. It almost looked real.
Wait. Staged by who?
Oh, by Mr. Trump, of course.
I think this whole thing is staged.
You think it was staged?
Yeah.
It depends on everybody's view. Yeah.
View of the assassination attempt? What do you think? Does it kind of depend on where you're standing, whether or not you agree with the assassination attempt or disagree with it?
I just don't see that being the truth, but that's my. I'd rather just not make any comment.
Really quick, what are you talking about the truth? What do you mean? Oh, you just don't believe it was an assassination attempt?
No. Please don't.
No.
We're so anti-Trump. I don't even want to.
Was it a bad thing though? Was it a bad thing? Would you condemn it?
Oh, that he got shot at? Of course.
Yeah, you never do that.
Of course, you don't do that.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, that's really bad. Yeah, exactly. You don't do that. Was it staged? Probably.
Staged?
Yeah.
Okay, so you think Trump maybe staged a fake assassination for support? Okay. And that resulted in somebody dying and other people being critically injured?
I haven't seen the news today. I'm not here for the news. I haven't seen anything. I'm on vacation.
So you just thought it was fake?
Of course.
One person died in the crowd, 2 critically injured. What happened
it's a
there?
small price. It wouldn't matter to Trump. Do you think he cares if people die for him to be elected? Death doesn't mean anything to Trump.
Now, staged from whose side? Do you think Donald Trump staged it for attention?
Could be, or it could be the other side trying to make a scene or something. But I don't. The fact that he only got his ear and he stood up and said America. I don't know. Come on.
Right.
It doesn't feel normal.
What is our evidence for suggesting that it was a fake assassination attempt?
I think that he walked away alive with perhaps a scratch on his ear.
Yeah, it grazed his ear.
Yeah. Of course, behind the scenes, that was all fabricated. Some noise, they put a little scratch on his ear, threw a little blood on his face.
Now, so you think that they planned from 130 yards away to shoot off the corner of his ear?
And they never shot off the corner of his ear. That was all done by the people hanging around him. Nobody ever shot off his ear.
Okay. So you just see it grazing his ear as maybe not real. What about the people that died what about the father that died in the stand as well as the others that were critically injured?
I don't know. I can't tell, but to me it just looks like it was planned, and bless that guy's soul for dying for this cause. I'm so sorry for that person's family.
So you think, if we're thinking that that's a big thing to think is that Donald Trump's administration faked an assassination, got people killed to try to do this. What would you say our reasoning is for saying that, or we have no reasoning?
Just the feeling. Just the feeling.
I haven't paid attention to anything right now because that's not where my mind is at right now. So as of right now, I just, like I said, I didn't even want to talk about it.
Well, if we're not paying attention, is the right move to say that Donald Trump staged the assassination and faked an assassination against himself? Is that the right move, or is the right move just to say, I don't know?
I'm just going to say, I don't know. I'm on vacation.
Oh, well, you're against fake news, Donald. How about against against all this other fake crap that you pull? If Trump is involved, it's a fraud.
That was a powerful moment after he got shot. Bro got shot in the ear. Yeah. And he I don't know, he showed everyone that he's strong and stuff. So
what are your thoughts about those people? Are they foolish for believing that this is a real assassination attempt?
Yeah, a lot of people are easily fooled by Donald Trump. Yeah, they're foolish.
So, there we have it. People in LA on the streets, the crazies, they've got a handle on it. That anybody could believe. Listen, they're not important people in the grand scheme of things. They're probably hand-picked crazies. All of these videos work the same way. But that anybody could believe that it's fake is kind of crazy. Trust me, it gets worse. This is Pam Keith Esquire. I've seen videos of assassinations of political figures since I was a kid. Kennedy, MLK, RFK, even Reagan. I have never seen one where the crowd starts cheering and chanting and the target starts grandstanding ever. There was this, Jackie Singh. This is a distraction from the Epstein files and Project 2025, an attempt to further anger his base in a new way to attack the leftists. Then Rebecca Jones came in. Strong uptake for Bandage Gate, which we had. He walked into the RNC with a bandage on his ear because he'd been shot in his ear. And there it is. Trump went golfing the day after the shooting. No gauze or band-aids on his little boo-boo. Didn't call the family of victims. Biden did. Goes to the RNC 2 days after with a maxi pad on his head like he's Van Gogh and announces he's picking the Nazi Care Bear as his vice president. Now, what she'd done is she'd circulated a photo from 2022 of him playing golf and claimed that it was from the day before. I mean, I imagine he's had the dressing on his ear since the incident happened, but lots of people were doing it. Rebecca Jones also double-dipped with what might be one of the most hilarious fucking tweets I've ever seen. She said, if Trump was actually shot, he may have secondary brain damage from the proximity of an AR-15 bullet so close to him that it was visible in photos. Yet no one has asked about whether he was shot or injured by glass. Even if he wasn't shot, as reporting indicates, has anyone asked if he's seeking psychiatric help for potential trauma or PTSD? Has he been cleared by any medical personnel? Consider the media is demanding the weight of Biden's bowel movements. She obviously means bowel movements there. Why the hell isn't anyone asking about physical and mental injuries of the other old man running for president? Secondary brain damage. Yeah, that's what I get covering this stuff. Then there was this, more fake blood. You can see here, blood does not coagulate that fast. There should be blood spattered all over that white collar. Hashtag Trump assassination attempt. Obviously, it looks like it's coagulated because that's a photo. I won't even get into how cauterization works and how bullets are hot when they fly out at such velocity. But yeah, okay. Then there was this as well. Nursed for 42 years in the art, never saw an hairdressing like Don the Con had tonight. It was the bandage that what was to blame. Mark Hamill losing all of his beloved childhood credibility. First appearance of ludicrously oversized ear bandage apparently not needed prior to tonight. And again, believing that he had not been wearing a bandage before he turned up at the RNC. There's no evidence to suggest that that's true. We had this Morgan J. Freeman, not that Morgan Freeman, but a social media grifter. He posted, Trump golfing Sunday, no bandage. Trump Monday at RNC, big bandage. Thoughts? And of course, that picture was from July 3rd, 2024. We had another one here that the bandage was fake. This is from Demo Cat. What happened to the bandage Donald J. Trump was wearing on Monday? Here he is playing golf on Sunday and poof, no bandage. That photo there, I believe, from 2022. We had the incredible claim. This one, love this. Again, taking a picture from 2022. The top part of his ear grew back. Yes, this is from today. It was, in fact, not from today. It was from 2 years prior. Then, on top of that, don't worry, the media get involved. It's not just nutcases with blue and on. It's the people that beam their garbage directly into every home in America, poisoning people's brains. Here we are. This is MSNBC saying the bandage is a prop.
And yet this was also showmanship by a politician known for his mastery of what they call unscripted reality TV. Taking this supremely visible seat in the VIP box with his new running mate and party leaders and a longtime TV personality, Tucker Carlson, up there as well last night. Here's how the New York Times put it. On the first night of this convention, Trump was his own biggest prop. He entered the VIP box, a large white bandage on his injured right ear, the result of a close call on Saturday with a would-be assassin's bullet. A reminder of mortality, a badge of survival. It was a blank rectangle on which the crowd could read what it wished, and that made it the most potent placard in the hall. That's fair. A placard for delegates to fill in, an image for political mobilization, a spectacle for this candidate who we know is, by his own admission, obsessed with assorted spectacles. These aren't normal times. This is not a normal convention. Whether that makes it abnormal in a way that is either special or abnormal in a way that is bad is what voters will assess, because many are watching over the course of these nights, along with you and our team here. There is a political quest here to mine and use Donald Trump's injury, and whether his allies and Republicans or the candidate himself do that in a way that overextends their credibility will be decided by the voters. That is one good thing we hope we can still agree on in this country, because this is both, as I said, a scary reality we all lived through this weekend and a political project.
So, and then we had my personal favorite, the Bullet Truthers. The Bullet Truthers are fantastic. And, I mean, I'll just also play you this again from MSNBC. Who else? This is them saying that, was it a bullet or was it debris from the bullet that hit Trump's ear? Did a bullet really pass through his ear? Because if they're not telling the truth about whether it was debris or a bullet, it's actually the same as Joe Biden hiding the fact and his administration hiding the fact he has dementia from the American people. No, seriously. Listen, enjoy.
Where I am at this point is it's been 3 days going on 4 since this horrific event occurred. A person lost their life, 2 have been severely injured. And yet we've not received a medical report from the hospital, nor have we received a medical report from the campaign or from the Trump organization about the extent of the damage to his ear. If he was shot by a high caliber bullet, there should probably be very little ear there. And so we'd like to know that. Is there cosmetic surgery involved? What is the prognosis for recovery? Were there stitches? What is the extent and nature of the damage to his ear? Was it caused by a bullet, as opposed to, as some reports from those on the scene, other reporters, saying that it was actually shards of glass from the teleprompter itself, not the bullet. So there are a lot of questions around that ear, and yet there's been no response to that. Instead, just showing the image of the man coming into the hall with the wounded ear.
Let me jump
so
in
that's
on
the
that.
politics.
Let me jump in on that, and then we'll continue. We're looking at that photo. Michael Steele is correct. While there is a certain amount of time that could be understandable for any medical scenario, the calls around the current president's medical condition, the questions around his capacity, right, are also the same questions you have in a medical event like this. Certainly the public would want to know as much as possible about both incidents, and the Trump campaign has not been the most transparent. So I think getting medical records and briefing on that at some point would be appropriate. That's what journalists often ask for.
Yep, so now Joe Biden's non-functioning brain, we don't have a right to know about that, and actually it's rude of us to ask, and actually we're violating privacy. And listen, he passes a neurological exam every day, man. Why are you even asking? Look at what he's achieved. Or, so we don't need to know about that, but we do need to know whether it was glass from a teleprompter that hit Trump's ear. It's like, because that totally invalidates the fact that he was indeed shot at and could have died. And we've even got a photo of a bullet whizzing past his ear, super close to him. But no, it's super important. So the Bullet Truther movement has been absolutely fantastic. It's like these people in the media are incapable of experiencing shame anymore. This is Steve Beschloss. He's been going on about this for days. Trump has posted that his ear was pierced by a bullet, but the sad fact is that he's an unreliable source. News organizations need to wait for more credible confirmation of what happened. Then, another one. Why haven't we heard from the medical staff or others confirming whether Trump was or wasn't hit by a bullet? And then, if indeed Trump was cut by a piece of glass, then all the talk he was shot is factually wrong. This needs to be clarified by the authorities involved, no matter whether it contradicts the Trump narrative. Yes, indeed. whether or not it was a bullet that went through his ear or the bullet hit something that went through his ear. Yes, we should really totally dial in on that and focus on that. And by the way, he's still going today. He's still tweeting about this. Now, obviously, as well, it wouldn't be any form of media criticism or Blue Anon without Joy Reid getting involved. Joy Reid was on Threads. Funnily enough, after the shooting, she just shut down her Twitter account. Why is a news anchor doing that? But she is the worst news anchor in all of American news. Remember, as I will always be happy to remind you of, she is the woman who had a blog that had homophobic remarks on it, conspiracy theories around 9/11, certainly some strange anti-Semitic viewpoints as well. She said that the blog had been hacked and somebody had written those articles on there without her knowledge, and yet archives proved that couldn't have been possible because the articles existed prior to the point where it was noticed and she said she deleted. So ultimately it was a time traveler that wrote that. Not only was she still allowed to keep her job at MSNBC despite having done all of those things, she also got a promotion, and she now says outrageous stuff every day. She's also the news anchor responsible for bringing on a body language expert to prove why Bernie Sanders was untrustworthy and not fit to be around women. She is ghastly. She's everything wrong with the American media, and she needed to be fired years ago. But nope, she will be putting out her venom and bile and nonsense every day. Anyway, see, I have many questions. Where are the medical reports? What caused Trump's injury and what was the injury? Sheepnel? God help us. Glass? A bullet? Where were the 3 attendees who were shot seated or standing relative to Trump? Why was Trump allowed to stand and pose for photos, fist pumping for nearly 10 seconds while asking about his shoe when there could have easily been additional shooters? How did the gunman manage to get on the roof of the building where the local police were literally inside? Some of these questions are valid, some less so. I mean, it's cheating to have Keith Olbermann. He's just a seriously mentally ill man.
There's one other important note. After 5 days of no confirmation that the injury to Trump's ear in the assassination attempt was actually from a bullet, we have to now assume that they're lying about something that happened to Trump on Saturday. No one has confirmed it, and there is no good reason why no one has confirmed it. All that and much more on the Thursday Countdown edition of the podcast, now available wherever you podcast.
Yeah, I'm good, actually, Keith. Anyway, Snopes have said rumor that shards of glass, not bullet, injured Trump in assassination attempt is false. So all of these journalists, by the measures you have applied to everyone else, you are now all peddling in disinformation, misinformation, and dangerous conspiracy theories. But you can see here, this was Alex Salvi said it on Newsmax. There was all of this, you know, forensic stuff that Snopes has gone into about it, and they have said unequivocally it was a bullet that passed through his ear. So hopefully, and by the way, I think it's also been reported in the Washington Post and the New. So I don't even know what the bullet truthers are doing, but they are doing it. So that was Blue Anon. Now we're going to talk about this, and I realize it's important to show it. This is the iconic photo I was talking about earlier. By the way, whoever got this should be awarded a photojournalist Pulitzer just immediately. You aced the assignment. This will go down as one of the most important photographs ever in American history. It's unbelievable. Jace is telling me it's the same guy who got the George W. Bush shoe pick, so he's probably already got a bunch of awards. Right place, right time, and it is iconic no matter what you think of the man, no matter what you think of the incident. Just everything about this picture is insane, even with the American flag and the fact that they're all bent over, huddled around the president, the composition of it all. It's just unbelievable. This is a photo that will be talked about, it'll be shown to kids when we talk about history from this time period in like a fucking 100 years or something. It's wild. Now, unfortunately, it also kind of makes Donald Trump look cool. And that's a problem. That's a real problem. Because, you know, if you were on the fence about whether or not to vote for Donald Trump and you hear about the assassination and then you see a picture of him bloodstained raising his fist with the American flag in the background while Secret Service try and force him to the ground to save his life, but he will not go down, you might think, you know, fuck it then, go on. I'll throw in a vote for him. Go on. I mean, you know, fucking Joe Biden looks like Mr. Burns without the cocktail. Yeah, all right then, fine, fuck it. So there has been all sorts of insane stuff going on. In Wikipedia, there is a huge argument where what they're trying to argue is it would be a violation of the photographer's copyright to enter it on Wikipedia. And there's this huge debate, as you can see. Wikipedia, for those who don't know, you have the people who basically like contribute and moderate, and they all have these discussions, and then the edits and everything can be seen publicly. And obviously, Wikipedia is a captured institution. It has been politically biased for a long time. It's also open for anyone to edit, and while those edits do have to be approved and held in stone, it also is, it's one of the internet's greatest achievements, but it's also one of those things where, you know, access to everybody means trolls and liars and morons. They all get to stick their fucking fingers in the gumbo, and sometimes it's fucked up. But anyway, you can see here, everyone is having this debate because they don't want to show this picture, and obviously they don't really want to show this picture because it is pro-Trump propaganda. And you can see, you know, somebody says, keep it. It's a historical image, similar to raising the flag on Iwo Jima and raising the flag at Ground Zero. And then the argument is there's a fundamental difference in the situations. Those raising the flag pages are about the photographs in question, so the photographs are necessary to better understand the article. There is no page about Evan Vucci's photograph of Donald Trump. We have articles for the Barack Obama Hope poster. I think this picture could get its own article. It's one of the clearest pictures of an assassination attempt aftermath. This is a wholly fanciful argument that does not jibe with... It is beyond laughable to think you can declare something historical mere hours after the fact. And so there's this insane, convoluted argument about whether to delete this photo or not. Do feel free to read it all. I will spare you. But if you thought, oh, well, that's just Wikipedia, Richard, you know what that's like. Well, no, they had that discussion in the media too. I haven't included it here, but there's because terrible accounts are saying it, but there's also talk that Time bumped that photograph from their cover. I have no idea if that's true at this moment in time. I couldn't verify it before I went live, so I'm not including that. But here it is. Axios got a story where a photo editor at a major news outlet suggests media should bury the photo of Trump raising his fist because it's kind of free PR for Trump in a way, and it's dangerous for media organizations to keep sharing that photo despite how good it is. And you can see here, yes, but the overuse of the same photos, eyewitness videos, and reporting from the ground can also pose risks. Multiple photographers worried privately in conversations with Axios's Alda Aimer that the viral images from the rally could turn into a kind of photoganda, with the Trump campaign using them to further their agenda, despite the photographer's intent of capturing a news event. A photo editor and photographer from a major news outlet said the amount that publications have been using Evans' photo is kind of free PR for Trump in a way, and it's dangerous for media organizations to keep sharing that photo despite how good it is. Yes, how dare you? How dare you use one of the best photos to capture the event just because it might make Trump look like actually he does have some personality components that you could conceive of as admirable on some level. So no, we can't allow that. So we now enter into this part, and I'm going to talk about the man who died. Obviously, Corey Comparator was the fireman who was in attendance at the rally, and the reaction to his death has kind of been a bit disheartening. Now, I'll add this, because this has been a matter of some debate, and I'm going to, again, just clearly state where I'm at on the debate without naming names or getting involved. I do not believe that when somebody dies, you have to show them reverence and respect, and you can only say nice things about them for a undetermined time period. Absolutely fucking not. There's always respect the dead is a garbage mindset. I've told you many times about the story when Margaret Thatcher died. Me and my mate, we were in the house. It was when I had a housemate. Me and my mate were in the house, and he just shouted, "Fucking Thatcher's died!" And then he started playing Celebrate, and we stopped what we were doing, and we got fucked up. Because if you grew up in Thatcher's Britain and you were one of the working class that were affected by her policies, then you absolutely would be right to feel that way. And I certainly haven't got any good things to say about her now she's dead. I didn't have any good fucking thing to say about her when she was alive. So why would that change? And this is a viewpoint that I think, look, we also have to kind of acknowledge that, look, death is a tragedy, right? Especially when it's someone you know or you care about. It's devastating to lose somebody in any circumstances, be it sudden and shocking or long drawn out diseases. But obviously as well, we have to kind of acknowledge that given we're all going to die, and the cosmos has a weird, fucked up cosmic sense of humor, this cold and flinching universe. Sometimes people die in really ironic ways that, with the right kind of humor, yeah, it is sort of funny. Not funny because they died, but funny because here's a story about someone who died in this particular fashion. And obviously, if you knew them and you cared about them, you would be devastated and you wouldn't find it funny. But as an abstract concept and somebody I don't know, don't have any feelings for, I can say if this was a story, which it essentially is, even though we know it's a real thing that happened, I can find it amusing. Brilliant example from Shit Wizard, David Carradine. He died he choked himself out while jerking off doing erotic asphyxiation in a cupboard. It's like, I liked the guy, liked his acting, but people are going to make jokes about that kind of thing, and I'm sure it's awful for the family. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure it's awful if you go on social media that, looking for tributes, and then you've just got, haha, your father wanked himself to death. It's not going to be pleasant, but I would never advocate for banning people, nor do I think there has to be some sort of blanket agreement that we must all respect the dead no matter who they were in any circumstances. Now, I will add, in this instance, I found some of the responses distasteful in the sense that, he was a fireman. And so, look, would I want to sit and have dinner with this guy and listen to his political takes when he replies to cat turd on Twitter? Well, no. Obviously, I'm going to find him probably quite insufferable. But if I was trapped in a car wreckage or a burning building, I'd be very grateful to have him there. And so at least I can say this individual contributed some nominal good to society and was probably just a good dude with some dodgy opinions. Get over it. So do I think he deserved to die? Absolutely not. Do I think it's ghoulish to celebrate it? Yes. Do I think people should be banned if they do make jokes at the expense of a dead person? No, not really. So, and I think all of those things are true, right? I think all of those things can be true, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. Now, I'm obviously really saddened about the circumstances. Nobody should die going to a political rally. I'm really saddened about the circumstances that, he died shielding his family from the bullets and, caught a stray in the head and bled out in front of his family. It's harrowing and horrible. And I think a lot of people, in all of the memes and all of the frivolity and all of the conspiracy that I'm bringing to you, people have forgotten a guy did fucking die. And that family will be left scarred forever at what happened. And that's just objectively a bad thing. So, spoiler, you will see some dried blood on a t-shirt in this clip. I want you to listen to the account of the ER doctor who just so happened to be in the crowd and tried to save Corey's life.
That's exactly where I heard him come from.
What did you see, sir?
I heard the shots. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, he's been shot, he's been shot. So I made my way over. I said, I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you. The guy had spun around, was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There was lots of blood, and he had brain matter there.
Oh,
and
no.
so I got him. There's a helicopter coming in to get him. I got people there really helpful. I got
Was
him
there only
up
one
on a
person
bench.
shot that you saw?
Then I did CPR, did chest compressions as well as I breathed for him.
One person.
I was the only one that did it.
We need to evacuate everybody.
So, I mean, look, this is the sort of serious point of the stream, which is, I mean, look, we can make jokes and memes and all of this stuff, but a bunch of people went to an event in public. A shooter opened up on a crowd, attempted to kill an individual people, and people caught strays. And the people who were there, not just the direct victims, everybody that was part of that collective harrowing experience is going to be changed forever. Things like that change you. You don't just come back. He's an ER doctor. I imagine he's got a pretty good threshold for this kind of thing psychologically. But there's a world of difference between, I don't know, somebody comes in at 2 a.m. with a head injury from a drunken fist fight, and watching somebody get their brains literally blown out in front of you, and you having to do the perfunctory CPR on what you know is essentially a corpse in front of their family. It's like, that's a rough day. That's a rough day for any medical professional. And also all the people in the crowd. I can't show you the footage on Twitch, but when you look, there was everybody around the person who was shot, and so they have all seen it. They are all traumatized. Most people, most people in America, most people who live in, lucky enough to live in countries that aren't plagued by civil wars and famines and we're very lucky. We can go through our entire lives without having to see someone die a violent death. Lots of the world aren't as lucky as that. And for people that it isn't a reality of life, it's deeply traumatizing. And as I said, it will leave you forever changed with mental scarring. I don't think that's anything to be frivolous about. I don't think that's that's not something I would joke about personally. But equally, if you want to, have at it. Everything's got to be fair game for humor, in my opinion. Anyway, this was a CNN profile on Corey, and just a little bit about him. Everyone, as you'd expect, glowing reviews, stellar contribution as a firefighter, regular churchgoer. There's an update about the other victims, and this is just like a sad thing. But the problem is, you see, he had bad tweets, and so the media, rather than, not all of the media, but large chunks of the, let's say, lesser media, they didn't want to just leave it there. People went through all of his social media presence, and you can see here, these are some of the tweets. He called Karine Jean-Pierre a DEI plant. Somebody said, if the room is completely engulfed in flames, who would you save? And it was AOC with the googly eyes, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Vladimir Putin. And he said Putin 100%. In a video where it was like people were responding to airstrikes in Gaza, Piers Morgan was saying, where are these Palestinians going to live when the war is over? He posted, they'll get over it. The Japanese did. But what's interesting in this, the response has been that, because he said these things and made these edgy jokes, it's therefore, it's okay to say it was a good thing that he died. And again, I don't think that's a direct equivalent. I think the internet, people shitpost, people say fucking, just ridiculous stuff all the time. He was obviously a guy that never developed past the little edgelord phase. But, I mean, this just looks like shitposting to me. I think it's benign. I think as a fireman, I don't think he would legitimately leave AOC to burn in a building. I think he would indiscriminately rescue whoever was in there, because that's the oath firemen take, and they do it every day. Would he joke otherwise on Twitter? Yeah. Did he reply to a lot of fucking right-wing accounts, as I said, including the ever-risible cat turd? Yeah. But, I don't know. I don't think it's great that his kid has to grow up without a dad. Then I saw this. Somebody made a song, essentially saying that because he had bad tweets, therefore lacking empathy, being shot in the head was actually fair game.
Well, he was shot in the head by a Republican with an AR-15. Democrats tried to ban. It was just back in May. The bill lost by one vote. Feel bad for his wife and his daughters. Oh, they'll get over it. The Japanese did. That's what Corey Comparator said about men, women, and their kids in Gaza. They'll get over it. That's what he said. He gave his life to save his kids and his wife. It's a shame, it's a crime, he didn't deserve to die. I wonder, can you extend the same empathy to the children being bombed right now as we speak? They'll get over it. The Japanese did. That's what Corey Comparator said about men and women and their kids in Gaza. They'll get over it. That's what he said.
Right. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. So obviously, he deserved it. I mean, I played you a clip earlier of Biden where he barely mentioned him. And he did say, he did pay tribute to him and say he was a good guy. I mean, bizarrely, Maloney did a better tribute in a lot of ways in the White House. I can't translate it here. It won't let me, but I'll read you what the translation says, because I do happen to speak fluent Italian. Corey Comparator had just turned 50. He was a former fire chief, an Italian-American of Calabrian origins. He died a hero, acting as a shield for his wife and daughter, standing between them and the bullets detonated by the attacker who fired during Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. Corey sacrificed his life to save that of his loved ones, instinctively, without a moment's thought, a gesture of love and extreme altruism which can only be honoured. To all his family members, I renew my deepest condolences. Rest in peace, Corey. There was no such tweet from the White House, although, as I said, Biden did pay tribute in his address, and he did offer to call the family, and the family said they didn't want to talk to him and rejected it. So, I mean, we can sort of see where the bread is buttered. Now, it was also said that Donald Trump hadn't been in touch with them. I have no idea if that's true as of now, but certainly they did say in the initial aftermath in a press statement that they hadn't heard from Donald Trump either. We will wait and see. There was an anecdote told at the RNC that Donald Trump did say, like, not long afterwards, he said, get me all their names, get me their phone numbers. I'm going to call everyone that was hit. So we'll see what comes out after that. But and then finally, I mean, listen, you know me, I have a soft spot and a bit of a man crush on Jon Stewart. I think he's a national treasure. Don't always agree with him politically. Also think he played an instrumental part in getting us to this place we're at now, where we're all lamenting, oh, let's turn the temperature down. Jon Stewart used to fucking turn the temperature up when he was at his very best. And sometimes it's warranted and sometimes it isn't. Now we're all dealing with the aftermath. But I want to just play you the end of his 17-minute monologue about all of this, which was typically brilliant, even if you disagree with some of the content.
No liberals, no progressives. It's like that press your luck game. No Jewy, no Jewy, no Jewy, no Jewy, no Jewy! And we're all doing it. We're all doing it because we have to know what our posture will be on the tragedy. Will it be a haughty, I told you, or perhaps a circumspect, well, let's not rush to judgment. We shouldn't generalize. And then it ends up being someone we can't even figure out in the first place. A bullied loner white guy, registered Republican, donated to a blue PAC, argued conservative causes, is a dude, but if you flip his picture upside down, kind of looks like an old lady. I don't know what's going on with this guy. It's a jump ball. We don't know yet who's got dibs, who wins, and none of us knows what's going to happen next, other than there will be another tragedy in this country, self-inflicted by us to us. And then we'll have this feeling again. I remember it on 9/11, this disorienting, holy shit, stop the world, I would like to get off feeling. And in that moment, there will be some incredible Americans who, in the midst of it, for some unknown reason, rush towards it and get us back to some sort of equilibrium. And we'll count on those folks to hold us together again. And it does remind us that by a hair's breadth, we dodged a catastrophe. But it was still a tragedy, because one of those first responders lost his life. His name was Corey Comparator. He was a retired fire chief in the area. He had given his life in service to his community, and he died literally shielding his family. He's a reminder that in those moments of crisis, there are helpers, and we can all make a choice to try and be one of those people. Or you can be one of these guys.
In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, an article from Forbes titled, "Will Surviving Gunfire Be Donald Trump's Next Appeal to Black Voters?"
Not helping!
So, yeah, I mean, look, if Jon Stewart can kind of find it within himself to, like, look, let's not necessarily demonize the guy. It is kind of fucking tasteless, but then again, everything's fair game these days on the internet. And that's just kind of what you're going to have. Now, I have to say, this is why I find the Republican response to Trump surviving the attack to be very perplexing, because a Trump supporter got killed shielding his family. And yet, what they've said is that God intervened. And this is the part I don't get. God intervened. God intervened, what, to save Trump and kill one of Trump's supporters? Why did he do that? And it's been really weird, and it's been very overbearing at the RNC. I mean, look, MTG, again, it's cheating to include all the crazy shit she says, but there you go. So she came out and said God's hand was on Trump during Saturday's attack, but that means then that God decided, listen, Trump's this 81-year-old guy or whatever. He's 79, whatever. He's more important than this fireman, this 50-year-old fireman with a family. And there was just so much of this. God intervened. There was so many. And it's just such a bizarre thing to say. It shows an almost like callousness. Again, if I'm the family, I wouldn't be particularly enjoying hearing that the divine supreme being, the same one that they worship, the same church that they attend, basically decided, yeah, actually, it's time for your husband, your father, to die. Why? Just is. I'm intervening to save Donald Trump. Ramaswamy, of course, been loving the rise of Vivek. Right, that's divine providence. One hair's width away from a death blow to the nation. No, it turned out it was just a death blow to some poor dude. So don't know what we're really going for with the messaging there. And there was lots of this. There was, like I say, just so much. God saved our republic. This is from Republican Representative Brandon Williams. Yep, God very interested in the American system of governance, of course. We had Mike Collins, the same Mike Collins that said Joe Biden ordered the hit. There he is. God spared Ronald Reagan for a reason. God spared Donald Trump for a reason. God doesn't miss. Well, dude, neither did the fucking shooter. He killed one of your fucking supporters. He killed one of your voters, for fuck's sake. I don't know, like, maybe don't say that's all part of God's plan. But that's kind of where we're at with the modern Republican Party. We've had a big, push of all this more religious right kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a little bit tasteless in my opinion. Now we are on to the down slope. We're on to the final parts of it. Obviously, people started talking about lowering the temperature. Okay, now As you know, Republicans pounced and seized, as is Republicans' way, on comments Biden had made to donors. And we've had two people, one person I didn't think was a retard, and another person who I don't know and cannot determine whether or not you are. But two people have said the same thing tonight, and I'm going to explain why it's stupid. But anyway, we'll first start with the comments. Republicans pounced and seized on the idea that it was wrong of Joe Biden to say in a call to donors that we're going to put Trump in the bullseye. And I've got the full statement here. This is the full context. This is direct from the call. And it said, look, we've had roughly 40 days to the convention, 120 days to the election, and we can't waste any more time being distracted. I have one job, and that's to beat Donald Trump. I'm absolutely certain I'm the best person to be able to do that, so we're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in the bullseye. He's gotten away with doing nothing for the last 10 days except ride around in his golf cart, bragging about scores he didn't score. Anyway, I won't get into his golf game. Yeah, please fucking don't. You're the president. But look, the fact is that he's not answering questions. He's now running away from everything he said he's for. Project 25, he means Project 2025, which is a disaster for America. He says he's going to protect Roe v. Wade. Or give me a break, man. The guy's just lying through his teeth. We gave him another term. He's not answering questions about Project 25, about Roe. He's not answering questions about Social Security and Medicare. He's not acknowledged. He wants to jack up prescription drug prices. Look, we can't go another day without explaining what he's doing. So, as you can see, vigorous and coherent Joe Biden there. Now, what ended up happening is, because it's a very leaky ship over at the DNC, because 2/3 of people want Joe Biden to stand down, everything Joe Biden says is going to get leaked into the public. And so when you have a private conversation with donors, that private conversation is going to be disseminated in the media. And indeed it was. Here it is, Politico, the 8th of July, 2024, right? Defiant Biden tells donors when we are done talking about the debate and to put President Trump in the bullseye. So, right, there it is. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye. So here's the problem with it. If you are the type of person that believes rhetoric is dangerous and stochastic terrorism is real and you shouldn't do it, then it doesn't matter if it was said in private. It isn't remaining private, and now it is public. And if you say bullseye, which is evocative of trying to hit a shot, right, and then your political opponent gets shot at, people might say, yeah, okay, well, this rhetoric thing goes both ways. So I don't want to hear it, because I'm seeing people who I know have functioning brains say things like, but it was only to private donors. Why is it in the fucking news then, you dickhead? Think. Use your brain. Why am I reading it? And if I can read it, why can everyone else can? And you don't understand, there's these fucking loonies who are just watching MSNBC in the fucking dark, stroking a fucking gun. Yes, I will stop the next Hitler. I will stop the next Hitler. And you don't know what the trigger point's going to be. You don't know what's going to be the bridge too far. So if you do use terms that evoke violence, whether you're Trump, whether you're Biden, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, you have to also think, oh yeah, there's a bunch of fucking psychos out there that might fucking act on it. I don't even want to imagine what would have been said if someone had took a shot at Joe Biden. I don't even want to imagine what the narrative would be. So anyway, Biden came out and it was like, oh, they're telling you to lower the temperature, President, lower the temperature, where you've done nothing to lower the temperature. And in fact, America isn't even safe for Jewish people because you keep pandering to the keffiyeh-wearing nutcases on campuses because you need votes. So would you like to take an opportunity to lower the temperature and say, in retrospect, the bullseye thing wasn't a great idea? Let's listen.
You called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago. You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate that.
I didn't say crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing.
So there you go. Because he didn't say crosshairs, it's fine. There has been not that you compared him to Hitler, said he was an existential threat, said he would destroy everything American, everything America stands for, unless he was stopped, all this other stuff. You didn't say crosshairs, so it was okay. By the way, bonus points for him not being able to finish a fucking sentence again. Incredibly. But he's fine, guys. 4 more years. So then we have AOC. She was saying that if you think that Trump's already won the election, you should absolutely retire, make space for true leadership that refuses to resign themselves to fascism. Of course, we're back to calling Trump a fascist again. That's back there. We had this over on Sky News. Trump is to blame because Trump has coarsened political discourse, which was fine before Trump.
That you were talking about. Do you concede that former President Trump himself has some responsibility for this?
Of course. And in fact, I would say, at least in my lifetime, there's always been name calling. There's always been some type of, character smear that goes on in the political campaign world. But I think he actually took it to an entirely new level of belittling, degrading his opponents into oblivion, and basically also bullying. And so, I do believe that he does bear a lot of responsibility because it also gave the green light to a number of his devout followers who also treat opposition in that same aspect.
Yeah, I remember when Trump campaigned against Hillary, saying that she was a Russian sleeper cell that had worked for Vladimir Putin and was simply getting the White House to do their bidding. And we know this because intelligence operatives told us. Oh, and also the compromat that Putin has on her is her with 2 male escorts pissing on a bed that Barack Obama once slept in because she hates him. Oh, no. That was the Hillary Clinton campaign that did all of that. So I don't want to hear about how coarse political discourse got under Trump when the fucking Steele dossier is one of the biggest most disgraceful entries in modern American politics. I mean, by the way, they actually fucking... They gave Tom Arnold his own TV series called Searching for the PP Tape. Like, are we serious here, guys? Like, that wasn't coarsening political, discourse. So, yeah, all right then, fine. Anyway, on we go. We also had this. This was a straight banger. I had to love because we can only lower the temperature for a few days. This is on PBS. Turns out the media never vilified Trump. They didn't vilify him. If you think they did, you are wrong.
Yes, the left has vilified Donald Trump.
I'm sorry, define vilified.
You can argue the merits, but in fairness, the left has vilified Donald Trump. Threat to democracy, that he's a...
Is that a vilification or
he's
an
a proto-fascist?
Is that a vilification? And I don't mean to argue with you, Jeff, but I disagree with this notion that the left has vilified Donald Trump. The left has pointed out multiple things he has done as president, has said as president, as a candidate for the presidency again, that deserve to be pointed out, deserve to be criticized. That's not vilification. That's acknowledging what is there for everyone to see. Now, if someone had called him, all sorts of names, in addition to that, then the name calling, I would say, is
Hitler?
Vilification. But the substance of what people are talking about, you can't call that vilification when you're hammering the guy on what he proposes for the country and to do to the country.
So, there you go. You were wrong. You thought the media vilified Trump and comparisons to Hitler were outrageous and a bridge too far and certainly encouraging potential violent reprisals against him, but you would be wrong. That's not vilifying Donald Trump to compare him to history's greatest villain. So, you were wrong. Obviously, it's all fair game. I just want to show you, there was like a montage I saw on my timeline. I've seen this before. It was a montage of all of the rhetoric that people got into about Donald Trump. It's a Grabian. They do these like little media snippet things that you're then meant to buy. This is one of their little montages.
What would a second Donald Trump term look like?
Well, he cannot be the next president. Because if he is...
You can't imagine the things that he's going to do. Mexico, Canada. We can't go to Canada because eventually Canada will become annexed to America.
And shoot visitors to the White House. Yeah, that means he can shoot the First Lady.
We're going to see violence, the likes of which we didn't even see on January 6th.
Make it illegal to run against him, to throw his opponents in jail, to shut down the media.
He will make himself into the Fuhrer, and he will make everybody raise their hand and salute him.
Using martial law against the American people.
Terminate the Constitution.
To rewrite the Constitution.
Create mass internment camps.
Throw everyone into Gitmo.
Might be sent to jail, or their rights might be suppressed, especially minority groups in society.
You might have any number of things happen to you and your family.
Every one of us, our freedom, our liberty, none of us is safe.
He's going to have people around him executing against an enemy's list.
Assassinate generals.
Ordering troops to attack American citizens.
Trump's very well-armed and extremist base will try to kill people.
He's going to basically burn the house down.
He will unravel the institutions of our democracy.
Draw similarities between Mussolini and Hitler.
Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini.
Makes Donald Trump even more dangerous.
Wants to take away your vote.
Senate and the House are immediately going to be paralyzed.
People will begin in their minds to censor themselves. They might say, well, maybe I shouldn't say this.
This is the end of democracy.
I think that could be the end of our democracy.
But democracy is dead if Trump is reelected.
Cozy up to Putin that democracy will be at risk.
The absolute destruction of the Justice Department as we know it.
The Justice Department could be entirely transformed.
I am really concerned about that.
Every person who was associated with the attempted coup elevated in the administration.
If he's reelected, he will curb transgender rights.
The end of the rule of law.
Arrest political opponents.
To persecute, not prosecute, but persecute his enemies.
Take a wrecking ball to the rule of law.
He's going to make the law. Everyone else will have to follow.
A vote for Donald Trump may mean the last election that you ever get to vote in.
To go after the independent and free parts of American civic life.
He would tear down our institutions.
Purge the government of employees.
Department by department effort to weaponize the powers of the government.
To use the military to quash protests.
Ridding the government of all democratic safeguards.
Junking American democracy as we have always known it.
That he would try to stay in office beyond a second term. That he would never leave office.
There's no question.
Trump is reelected, he won't leave.
Donald Trump will never leave office voluntarily.
And what that means is that everybody who wants us to remain a republic has to put every other thing aside and work together urgently right now to stop that from happening.
So there you go. Wasn't getting a vilifying vibe from that, actually. They made him sound like just a perfectly, nice guy. Also, shout out to the morons in the chat saying, oh, that feels a bit clip chimpy or out of context. What possible context for the argument that I'm displaying that they did indeed vilify him in the media? What additional context could there be for someone literally saying he is Hitler and he is more dangerous than Hitler and he will put you in internment camps? Like, I don't know. Like, what? Like, how fucking dumb are you people? Like, maybe, I don't know, guys. Walk away from the horror. There is no additional context that would make that not relevant at all. Like, for fuck's sake, guys, wake up. Anyway, there was an unfortunate slip of the tongue on CNN, which was seized and pounced upon by the Trump War Room Twitter account. A CNN, how should I call her that? I guess she's not an anchor. Contributor. A CNN contributor said that Democrats should turn their fire on Trump just days after the assassination attempt.
He has said many, many times, after having been questioned many times about this, that he's not stepping down and he's going to be the nominee. So at some point, Democrats have to decide that they want to try to win this election and turn their fire on Donald Trump. I think there is...
What I love about it is, as she says it is, the reaction from the person she's talking to. She's like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's so good.
So at some point, Democrats have to decide that they want to try to win this election and turn their fire on Donald Trump. I think there is... I shouldn't have said turn their fire. I apologize. That was not the phrase that I meant. They need to turn their focus on Donald Trump. So
it turns out like you can't. It's just so embedded in how we normally talk about American politics that it's the language of violence is almost a feature. Joy Reid, there's lots of Joy Reid at the end of the breakdown. She said the real problem is that it might encourage political civility.
Universal kind of reaction that I'm getting, whether it's civilians or professionals, is really a deep concern and lack of confidence in not us at this table or us at MSNBC, but us as the media writ large. And a fear that what's going to happen now is that the Republican Party will do what they do. They're in the middle of a campaign. The convention started today. But the media will acquiesce to trying to convince people that the things they've been experiencing for the last 5-6 years didn't happen. That the greatest purveyor and promoter of political violence, really, since anyone can remember, since George Wallace, I think, that we just haven't experienced that kind of open, sort of citing or sort of incitement of violence or sort of luxuriating in the idea of violence. It's just not something we're used to anymore in American politics. And then we had to get used to that being a thing. And people are concerned and expressing concern that we won't be the guardians of memory and that we will allow Donald Trump, as he is, bathed in the glory and grandeur of his party, to rewrite himself as both a hero and a victim, that people who are the most vulnerable to not just the things he's done, but the things he's promising to do, and that will then happen without a guardian saying, wait, stop, and then the media will acquiesce to this rewrite. And the people that I've been talking to don't accept the rewrite.
So Joy Reid was worried that we might have to take some backward steps on the runaway train, and of course, as I said, the temperature was turned down for approximately 3 days. They weren't going to stop just because somebody got shot. So we also had Jen Psaki, who you also saw in that clip. She decided, who she was really worried about after the Trump assassination attempt? Well, herself, of course. Herself and all her other fellow journalists she is now.
I think you're absolutely right. That is the question. And, Jen, in fact, we've already seen the finger-pointing begin. Some people even blaming President Biden. We heard that very forceful condemnation by President Biden of what happened. As someone who used to work with the president, what are you anticipating in terms of, he's obviously pulled his political ads forward, but as Carol said, the question is, how long does this moment last? And how do you think he sees his role right now?
I think his role, I'm betting that how he responded was as a human being, which is how we just saw Lindsey Graham at moments during that interview, and Senator Sanders and Senator Coons respond. That's how everybody should be responding. For anyone out there who has a platform, who thinks the moment right now is to be political and attack the other party, you are feeding into the danger. You are making it more likely there's retaliation. I'm incredibly scared. I'm scared for journalists. I'm scared for people who have public platforms of all parties, and that's how people should feel. So for President Biden, I mean, Senator Coons mentioned he was in church.
It turns out, Trump being shot at by some nutcase who almost certainly has been ginned up by the media to do it. Actually, won't somebody think of the journalists, of course, always the victims? We had this From John J. Harwood, the difference between each candidate calling the other a threat to American democracy is that it's true of Trump and not of Biden. So we're right back there. We're going to keep doing it all the way through to November. We had Lawrence Tribe. He just posted, I'm sure completely unrelated, quote from Galatians, you reap what you sow. I'm sure it nothing to do with what happened. And a sad one. I always told you Jack Black was a cunt. You never listened, did you? But anyway, Jack Black, they were doing a Tenacious D concert, and Kyle Gass made a joke saying, don't miss Trump next time. And they had to cancel the entire tour. Now, by the way, again, I don't want any of this to happen. I hate Tenacious D. I hate Jack Black, obviously, because I'm a man of impeccable taste. Jack Black has been campaigning for Joe Biden, though. So it's one of those, if you lie down with dogs, you get fleas situation. Jack Black has been openly adjacent to the Biden campaign, done a number of videos, promoted for him, been on fucking stage at the White House presser and all of that stuff. And so if you then say during one of your fucking shows, oh yeah, don't miss Trump next time you're shooting at him, well, guess what? Yeah, that might reflect badly on Biden, and you might have to go away and just sit down for a little bit until it all blows over. I'm sure they'll be touring again after November. Now, Kyle Gass, to his credit, he did apologize. It was a believable, sincere apology. Let me get the line I improvised on stage Sunday night in Sydney was highly inappropriate, dangerous, and a terrible mistake. I don't condone violence of any kind in any form against anyone. What happened was a tragedy, and I'm incredibly sorry for my severe lack of judgment. I profoundly apologize to those I've let down and truly regret any pain I've caused. And then, anyway, that didn't spare him. He got dropped by his agency as well. Jack Black came out with his own statement. I was blindsided by what was said at the show on Sunday. I would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form. After much reflection, I no longer feel it is appropriate to continue the Tenacious D tour, and all future creative plans are on hold. I am grateful to the fans for their support and understanding. So, with Jack Black saying all future creative plans are on hold for Tenacious D, at least some good did come of this. Anyway, also what happened? We had, I believe it was MSNBC. Yes, of course, it was Morning Joe. More on him in a moment. Morning Joe, they got pulled from the air. We'll talk about that in a second. But he called out his NBC colleague for asking Joe Biden about the bullseye question, saying it was totally off limits, inappropriate, and it was phony moral relativism.
Unified, you were praying for President Trump, his health, his safety moving forward. I want to get to all of that in a second. We just need to talk about that line of questioning from NBC's Lester Holt. It was an important question to ask about what President Biden said in a private fundraiser to donors. And it's a question I would have asked. I think any of us would have asked that question. But to ask that question without any context about the politically violent rhetoric that Republicans have been engaged in for close to a decade now. And we could talk about Nancy Pelosi. We could talk about the assassinations of Joint Chiefs, the hangings of Mike Pence. We could go on and on and on. And we could talk about it on both sides. Again, a good question to ask about what he said in a private fundraiser. A good question to ask.
Doesn't work, Joe. You're being a dickhead, Joe.
But to ask that question, absent of any context, seems to me to be, you talk about a phony moral relativism. It was just screaming throughout that part of the interview. And I must say,
it was such a private fundraiser. It's all over the media with the
totally
exact
agree.
quote.
I think that the comparisons are not there. I think the rhetoric needs to be brought down, but clearly I don't think that President Biden has engaged in that kind.
The Reverend Al Sharpton talking about fucking bringing down the temperature on rhetoric is an all-time fucking classic thing to say, by the way, if you know anything about this guy's history.
And a rhetoric that would in any way incite people to do things like we saw January 6th or the attack on Pelosi's husband. But at the same time, I think we have the moral obligation to be consistent. You cannot stand up against what happened to Pelosi's husband or what happened on January 6th and then act like it's all right what happened to Donald Trump. And I think that is part of the challenge that we have, is we must be against all.
Yeah, it sure is challenging to be against all violence. Now, by the way, Joe Scarborough was off his meds, right? He was fucking furious. It'd been a rough few days for him, actually. What you have to remember is, right, first of all, he absolutely wanted the bullet to connect with Donald Trump's head, and he can pretend otherwise, but he was absolutely seething having to type up, "I'm glad Donald Trump is safe." But then, because he's such an unhinged lunatic, and Morning Joe is such just destructive. It's one of the most destructive pieces of news programming to the American psyche that's ever been conceived. He just says insane things every single day. Between him and Joy Reid, you know, no wonder people's brains are turning into mush listening to this garbage. And so, when the shooting occurred, the following day, they were took off the air. There wasn't going to be a Morning Joe show. You can see this. It's a huge day in politics, and MSNBC has pulled Morning Joe off the air. They're apparently worried the Morning Joe crew might say something inappropriate about the Trump assassination attempt. I want you to think about what a tacit admission this actually is. They are acknowledging in this moment that our show is so fucking unhinged, and Morning Joe is so fucking unhinged, and Joe and Mika are so fucking unhinged, we cannot even put them on after a news cycle defining, super important historical event because of who it happened to and the fact they might say something actually fucking crazy. And so they had to take them off air. There's the report there, the decision by MSNBC to leave one of its most recognizable programs on the sidelines amid a seismic politics-driven news cycle, with the Republican National Convention getting underway in the wake of Saturday's shooting at Trump's campaign rally, is certainly going to raise eyebrows. A person familiar with the matter told CNN that the decision was made to avoid a scenario in which one of the show's stable of 24+ guests might make an inappropriate comment on live television. You don't need to worry about the guests on that one. That could be used to assail the program and network as a whole. Given the breaking news nature of the story, the person said it made more sense to continue airing rolling breaking news coverage in the fraught political moment. And anyway, they turned Morning Joe on, and Joe Scarborough was fucking doubly seething. Not only was he taken off the air for fucking 24 hours, which he fucking hates because he loves the fact that Morning Joe is actually Joe Biden's favorite fucking program, you know, when he's awake. And obviously as well, he was still spewing about Trump having made it out alive. And so here he is, literally on air, saying if they ever take him off air again, there'll be trouble.
Before we start this hour, Willie, I just wanted to briefly talk to our friends and viewers that watch us every day. And talk about what happened yesterday. We were told in no uncertain terms on Sunday evening that there was going to be one news feed across all NBC News channels yesterday. The Today Show would be Lester Holt, other people that you worked with on Sunday, and that was going to be one news feed across all NBC News channels, that we were going to stay as a network in breaking news mode throughout all day yesterday. That did not happen. We don't know why that didn't happen. Our team was not given a good answer as to why that didn't happen, but it didn't happen. We were also told it was going to happen throughout the day. And I guess after there was such a strong blowback about yesterday morning, I guess they changed their plans. And so those plans changed as well. So It didn't. We've talked about it off the air. We'll talk about it on the air because we talk about everything on the air. We were very surprised. We were very disappointed. And if we had known that there wasn't going to be the one news feed from NBC News across all NBC News channels, Willie, we obviously would have been in yesterday morning.
Yeah, I was here up early on Sunday morning with NBC's coverage. Savannah and I led the coverage on Sunday in the immediate aftermath, talking to eyewitnesses, talking to officials about what happened. Obviously suited up and ready to go for yesterday morning on a big morning, and we're told that something else was going to be broadcast. So we are here today, going through a lot, catching up a little bit, but we want to be here for our audience, and we know you trust us, and we have ultimate respect for you guys. So we are here today. I wish we'd been here yesterday.
We all wish we would have been here yesterday. We still would like to figure out exactly why there wasn't that one news feed.
And I think the reason why is this show began and continues 17 years later on being the place where you can go to have the hard conversations in a civil way. And so it seemed like now more than ever is a time that we would like to be on. And I think our viewers agree with that. So we continue. We are 5 minutes past the top of the hour.
No, and let me just say, next time we're told there's going to be a news feed replacing us, we will be in our chairs.
We'll be sitting here.
Yeah, and the news feed will be us, or they can get somebody else.
We'll still be sitting here.
Then get somebody else to do it. Yeah, he's absolutely fucking seething. Seething! Again, just have a think about your behaviour. It wasn't that long ago, by the way. What's ridiculous is Joe Scarborough was instrumental in getting Trump elected. And Joe and Mika were like good personal friends of Trump, so much so they were regular guests at Mar-a-Lago. And Trump, when they got married, Trump also was going to officiate the wedding. So, they broke from political protocol by giving him just phone-in interviews, which generally you didn't do in political broadcasting. And so Donald Trump, he would phone in for 20, 25 minutes on Morning Joe. Hey, Joe, what's up, Joe? Just shoot the shit with Morning Joe. He was, instrumental in getting him elected. And then obviously now, once he got the marching orders from the fucking MSDNC, that was that. We had to segue into this Hitler nonsense. Right. So we've had that. What about this classic? Biden has been diagnosed with COVID. MSNBC say that Joe Biden getting COVID and presumably going to survive through COVID because, lol, who dies of COVID anymore? Am I right, guys? Wake up, sheeple, right? They said in a segment on MSNBC that Joe Biden surviving COVID is exactly the same as Trump surviving an assassin's bullet. I'd like to pretend that I'm making that up, but I am not.
On that, these two men are both elderly. Donald Trump is an elderly man who, for whatever reason, was given 9 seconds to take a iconic photo op during an active shooter situation. Weird situation. We'll figure that out one day. But his survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days, doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same? I mean, it's not exactly the same. It's not the same incident, but it's an elderly man coming through out of an illness.
It should.
But remember when I told you that American media just is the same state media that you would get in like North Korea or Russia? Glorious leader, big and strong. Glorious leader defeated COVID. Yep, it's the same. It's the same. Jen Rubin, who's also having a tough time of it lately. She said it's the Republicans who are to blame. One party and one party alone is responsible for the rise in political violence. The horrific nature of the shooting should not stand in the way of the media's examination in Trump's role in the degeneration of our political discourse. They should press him and fellow Republicans to explain and renounce talk of televised military tribunals for Jan 6th committee members and threats to execute the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Trump's newly announced running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, who on Saturday made the unsupported accusation the shooting was not some isolated event, should be scrutinised as well. Jen Rubin's been having a tough time. Also, President Lower the Temperature was out in force. He went to the NAACP and said that Trump was going to call the National Guard on protesters that were mostly peacefully protesting the murder of George Floyd.
The pandemic was especially devastating to black communities. Oh, I know, because in other countries, other communities of color. That economic crisis drove up black unemployment, decimated small black businesses, and you peacefully protested George Floyd's murder. Donald Trump called for the National Guard to go after you. What in the hell's the matter with this man? No, I'm serious. Go figure. From a guy who spread the birthism lie against Barack Obama, saying he wasn't born in America and he wasn't a U.S. citizen. The pandemic.
Right, well, so we're back. We're so back. Actually, what's really funny is after doing his speech at the NAACP, a clip has gone viral from the interview that I showed you earlier, and it's got nothing to do with the Trump assassination attempt. But I just have to play it to you because I don't think people will believe it otherwise. Right, so as you might remember, there was a bit of a mini scandal, I want to say, about what happened where Lloyd Austin, who was the Secretary of Defense, was kind of absent for a while, having an illness treated. And apparently no one at the White House was aware, so what was going on, blah, blah, blah. Now, anyway, Lloyd Austin is the Secretary of Defense. He's a high-ranking person. He's not just somebody else who's there. Well, Joe Biden forgets his name, but that's fine. Joe Biden forgets lots of names. Here's the problem. He tries to bounce back by making reference to an immutable characteristic. And... oh boy, if Trump had done this.
And so it's all about treating people with dignity. And it's about making sure that, look, I mean, for example, look at the heat I'm getting because I named the Secretary of Defense to a black man.
Yep, that's right. Joe Biden called the Secretary of Defense the black man when he couldn't remember his name. So as I've said, guys, as I've maintained since 2019, he's fine. 4 more years, it's a stutter. Don't worry about it. He's fine. It's a stutter. Yep, that happened. Unrelated to the video, but I wanted to include it because these things must be preserved and I might not be able to get it anywhere else. Anyway, right. We also had Seth Meyers. Seth Meyers used his late night show to basically say, yeah, it's Republicans, what are to blame?
Tragically killed one spectator and injured 2 others. I think it's important to say that the easy availability of dangerous weapons has made tragedies like this all too common. Schools, shopping malls, grocery stores, movie theaters, houses of worship, and now political rallies have all been infected by this scourge of everyday violence. We cannot accept that. There are too many guns. They're too easy to get. We must work to change that.
Then he followed that up with the second part of the monologue. I don't know why they just didn't put it all in one, but fine. Here's the second component.
To make things worse, you are choosing to inflame the national mood at a dangerous moment rather than show the leadership and basic decency it would take to calm things down. You should be ashamed. Please stop. You're also wrong. Engaging in the work of democracy and peaceful persuasion is the opposite of inciting violence. It's what we need more of, not less. Accurately describing the dangers of autocracy and warning against attempts to dismantle our democracy have nothing to do with political violence. Speaking plainly about the specter of authoritarianism is not only our democratic right, it's our civic duty. We must all continue to do it. That's where we will continue to do here on this show. We'll keep talking about protecting democracy. We'll keep telling jokes. If for no other reason,
comedy, then
we already paid to license this picture of Rudy Giuliani for the rest of the year.
Right. Yes. What else? Well, look, everything's stupid, and the RNC obviously is happening. Again, it's cheating, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, she did a classic. Here was her tweet on her official account to the media. This is your fault. They demonized us. They called us Nazis, and they spent the past decade inciting violence against us. They do it every day, and yesterday they got what they wanted, an assassination attempt on President Trump, and one of his supporters murdered. Now, it's actually good that this is coming from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene has always maintained the high ground when it comes to political discourse, and certainly she is right that, you know, the media have made these Hitler comparisons for Trump, and they have called Republicans Nazis, and this is obviously a cheapening of the political rhetoric. But hang on, what was this? Oh, right, my bad. This is 2022, where Marjorie Taylor Greene compared Joe Biden to Hitler and got censured for it. So, you know, anyway, just all the worst grifters were out in force around this as the RNC started to boot up. This is just spectacular grifting. You almost have to admire it if it just wasn't so repellent. Candace Owens had like a fucking t-shirt out within hours of the assassination attempt. Just threw out all my son's Superman and Batman memorabilia, replaced it with bloody Trump photos and figures. Don't at me. Well, look, anything that keeps her away from blaming the Jews for 9/11, I suppose. So whatever, you have at it, Candace. Then, of course, Ian Miles Chong was out. I am 1,000,000% behind Trump now. We are at war. This was the first shot. Just the reader's note. Just destruction. Ian Miles Chong is a Malaysian who doesn't have a US citizenship, doesn't live in the USA, and can't vote in the USA presidential elections. But again, it's cheating, isn't it? It is cheating to get into that. I also do want to point out that somewhat upsettingly, this was the Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson comparing Donald Trump to Braveheart.
I am Mark Robinson. I am the first black lieutenant governor of North Carolina. And come November, I plan on being the first black governor of North Carolina. But I am not one of the political elite. I grew up poor as the ninth of 10 kids in Greensboro with an alcoholic father who beat my mother. I love to tell you that I graduated from high school, found success, never worried about money again, but I can't. I lost 2 jobs, 2 manufacturing jobs because of NAFTA, which, by the way, Joe Biden voted for. Politicians in D.C. made bad decisions. People like me suffered. I lost my car and my house. I was desperate. But you know, my story isn't unique. A couple of months ago in my travels, I stopped at a gas station. As I was leaving, a man walked out with a beard, and he looked very stressed. He got in his car, and I could see him holding an envelope. My heart dropped, because years ago, I held one just like it. It was bankruptcy papers. I could see the fear on his face. And it took me back to lying awake at night with that gnawing worrying, debating which bills weren't going to get paid. Unfortunately, many families today are having that same experience. Under Joe Biden, grocery prices have skyrocketed. And gas has nearly doubled. In North Carolina, factories just like the one I worked at are closing, leaving families feeling hopeless. But there is hope, and I'm proof. My wife and I never gave up. We kept our faith. We worked hard and made it through those tough times. Now I stand before you on the verge of becoming the first black governor of North Carolina. As governor, I will not forget where I came from. or the struggles of the people I meet. And you know, there's someone else who will fight just as hard for you.
Oh, yeah.
President Donald J. Trump.
That's right.
The brave heart of our time, President Trump had our economy roaring. Gas was up below $2. Unemployment was at a historic low. People could afford homes. And we had a president who protected manufacturing jobs. Under President Trump, the American dream was alive and well. Under President Trump, there was hope. And we need that now more than ever. So this November, let's select the brave heart of our time, Donald J. Trump, to get our economy back on track, restore the American dream, and make America great again. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Yeah, shortly after that speech, Joe Biden asked Mark Robinson to get back to his job as the Secretary of Defense. Anyway, the point being, no, there really isn't a comparison to fucking Braveheart, is there? I don't remember the part in Braveheart's history where he defeated the English by reducing inflation to a workable amount. But, you know, whatever. Fuck it. They're rolling at the RNC. By the way, I am going to have to do a summary of the best bits of the RNC at some point. So I'm kind of giving you a window into absolute insanity. But this is where I'm going to end the stream. Obviously, Trump has always been some sort of kind of mythical figure in a lot of ways. To his followers, he does inspire this cult-like devotion. And Trump, for a lot of people, despite the facts of the matter not measuring up to it, Trump is a name that's synonymous with success. Despite this is a man who is only a billionaire based on the real estate he owns and its value and a string of failed businesses in the past. It's very bizarre. He was always a traditional Democrat in all the positions he held. And yet, as he's moved into being a Republican nominee and a Republican president, like the type of people in his orbit, you do have to wonder about some of them. And so I noticed something on my timeline, and it was a little bit unnerving because obviously we have talked about Bandage Gate, haven't we? We did talk about it and how a lot of people believe that that big comically sized bandage on his ear was a fake or a fraud or an affectation and not a real dressing. And so I saw somebody tweet out that there was someone in the audience with a sympathy ear dressing, right? And so I was like, all right, yo, time out, right? Time out. That's got to be one guy who's just obviously, you know, a bit box gone, and he's doing it. It could be someone doing a bit, right? It's not like, you know, a thing. Because obviously that'd be crazy if it was a thing. And well, it turned out it might be a thing. I noticed it on the BBC. Republicans have been spotted wearing ear bandages in support of Donald Trump. It's a rapidly growing trend among the crowds at the Republican convention. No, it can't be. It can't be. But unfortunately, it is. The Hill even got video evidence of this phenomenon as they went around the RNC. Here we go. People of all different backgrounds coming together to adopt the fake affectation, like a cross in a way, of Donald Trump's ear bandage. So, we're not beating the cult allegations anytime soon, are we? Yeah. Crazy crazy stuff. So obviously the RNC has sort of, and Republicans in general, they've all kind of coalesced around Trump now. He is going to be the nominee, obviously. He's named his running mate. It's J.D. Vance. It's a terrible pick that actually gives an opening to the Biden campaign if they act swiftly in replacing him. So lots to talk about there. But ultimately, to put a pin in this epic trawl through everything that happened in the assassination. Look, American politics is bonkers. It's insane. It drives you insane. It's like staring at the sun. You eventually just go fucking blind. Except you don't. With American politics, you just you either succumb to the insanity like a Lovecraftian protagonist, or somehow you can find a way through by tethering yourself to objective reality. And so, I've always managed to cope with it that way by embracing neither side, acknowledging the absurdity of all of it from all angles, and that's how I always frame my political coverage. But one thing I will say is this: I think I can stand by what I said at the start, that all joking aside, all whatever people's opinions are, if you start running around blowing the heads off people that are political candidates, you've got fucking big problems. You're a society that's coming apart at the seams, because all civilized societies don't do that. Even if your candidate says crazy shit, even if your candidate might be a loon, even if you suspect that that candidate might do something undemocratic after being given the reins of power and being democratically elected. You don't get into the world of, well, maybe a preemptive assassination would be good. And I thought, I found it interesting, because a lot of people that have criticized Russia and Putin were kind of cheering on a very Russian and Putin way to deal with inconvenient politicians. I think a lot of people ended up showing their ass on this in quite an embarrassing fashion. Not to mention the people that couldn't even bring themselves to condemn an assassination attempt and pretty much pushed out their own rhetoric, which was tantamount to justification and radicalization of people that might be listening to your content. So if people aren't going to take a high ground, then it's never going to get any better, and you either want it to or you're either comfortable with it. But right now, where it's at in America, it's too hot, it is too crazy, and unless the media take some responsibility and both parties take some responsibility when we pump the fucking brakes, it's not going to get any better between now and November. Do you think, by the way, people are even going to remember this in November in terms of it's going to inform their, where they interact with Republicans or Democrats, depending on which side they are? Do you think there's going to be any of that stuff? No, of course it's not. It's going to be the same fucking nonsense. And if we get 4 more years of Trump, which we're increasingly looking like we're going to get, it's going to be, oh, Hitler's in, he's going to destroy democracy, we've got to put up the guardrails, how can we stop him, how can we... And it's going to be all of that. And we get obstructionist government for 4 years, where Trump's agenda won't be enacted, nothing will get done, and that doesn't help the American people. Equally, if we get 4 years of a Democrat, well, all of this hysteria and all of this nonsense is going to look pretty silly when they do what they will do, because if Trump loses the next election, chances are he won't even run again. You'll never hear from Donald Trump in a political sense, and we'll kind of look back on the last, 10 11 years as just being some sort of fever dream. But here's what happens next, and I know this because it's what always happens. Next up, whoever is going to be the GOP nominee in those 4 years, they will have to chip away at them. They will immediately start on DeSantis. They will immediately start on J.D. Vance. They will start telling you, unironically, like they did when Ron DeSantis was ahead of Trump in the initial polls for the primaries, they said Ron DeSantis might be even more dangerous than Trump. But Trump's Hitler. So you see the problem? So unfortunately, we are going to go straight back to that, because that is the rinse and repeat model that works for everybody in permanent Washington. Right? And as I said, Fox News will call whichever Democrat getting in some Marxist, non-respecter, lawfare using, destroyer of norms, It's not going to end until people draw a fucking hard line in it. And if an assassination attempt isn't pause for thought, then I don't know what it's going to take. And there it is. As exhausting to relive the second time as it was the first. But now you're fully up to date with all of the madness. I have spared you having to go through all of that yourself, because I am a benevolent God, much like Trump. And I want you all to be sporting unkempt, shaggy, grey beards next time I stream.